It's a Friday and it's always my pleasure to serve you the news. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Let's start off from Parliament, where the Speaker of the House, Alban Bagbin, has referred allegations contained in the censure motion to an ad hoc committee. The minority outlined 7 key issues to force President Akufo-Addo to dismiss Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The Speaker has subsequently set up an 8-member committee to look into the matter and later report to the House. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kasua Asante has the rest of the details.
There was an early morning news conference by the rebel NPP MPs, which served as a foreshadowing of what was to come.
Not only to state that we are back to the original position that we took, and that original position is to say that the Minister of Finance will not be the one who must read the budget and must not be the one who will do the appropriation. And we are going to be positively defiant on that posture until that action is taken. However, we are not going to support the cause of the NDC in the chamber this morning. Shortly
after this, the minority leader led his side, who chanted their way into the parliamentary chamber.
People of Ghana really want the Minister of Finance go. Unfortunately, they have decided to disappoint the people of Ghana. And clearly, what they did last 2 weeks was nothing but politics.
When they said that the MPP has died in the market, you don't need to announce their demise. Yes. And it is clear, when the house has fallen, do you ask whether the roof is still standing? It's clear, everything has collapsed.
On the floor, meanwhile, the minority leader moved the motion and canvassed his arguments in support of the censure of Ken Ofori-Atta.
To move the motion that this honorable House passes a vote of censure on the Minister responsible for Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, and I urge my colleagues opposite to support us.
There was a preliminary objection from the Deputy Majority Leader.
Some of the statements captured in the motion paper include despicable conflict of interest in ensuring that he benefits from Ghana's economic woes. Mr. Speaker, these are very severe allegations that require more evidence than the pedestrian allegation.
It was during this period that the Speaker announced his decision to refer the issues to a committee.
The matter will be referred to an ad hoc committee to investigate, where the minister will have the ample opportunity to defend himself.
There was a back and forth between the Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak and the visibly enraged Speaker of Parliament.
And therefore we have to vote on it.
Honorable, listen to him. Sit down and listen. You are completely out of order. Remember, I don't take my rulings lightly. Please.
Parliament, it is this chamber with the 275 members. Mr. Speaker, when it refers to
Honorable member, please. The House cannot be constituted without a speaker.
I hold this
Honorable member, you have to withdraw it and apologize.
And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
The 8-member committee will be co-chaired by Adansia Sokwa MP KT Hammond and Bolga East MP Dominic Ayine. The other members are Kwame Animedu Entry, Ejapa Mesa, and Patrick Yabuama from the majority side. Zaneto Ajaman Rollins, Okujetua Blakwa, and Bernard Ahiafo are from the NDC minority side.
The fate of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta now rests with 8 members of Parliament, 4 from the NDC side, 4 from the NPP side. It will be very interesting in the coming days, whatever report they present to the House and how this will be debated back in chamber, and ultimately the decision they will be taken. For JoyNews, Kasua Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Rice producers in the country are predicting shortages of Ghana rice early next year due to the inability of rice farmers to grow more of the cereal this year. According to them, the challenges with fertilizer acquisition this year, coupled with the lack of support for rice farmers by government, seriously hampered their production capacity. Ghana imports more than $1 billion worth of rice every year, and there are fears that Ghana's rice imports would shoot up next year. President of the Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body, Nana Ajay-Aye, spoke to JoyNews ahead of the Ghana Rice Festival at the Ifwa Sutherland Children's Park.
Rice is an important staple in Ghana, and it is cultivated across all agroecological zones. There could be no party, wedding, and other social functions that involves eating in Ghana without the consumption of rice. Ghana rice imports for 2021 stood at $1 billion, and there are fears we may import more. The Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body says there is a need for government to look their way by supporting them to remain competitive and to reduce the rice imports. Nana Ajay-Aye II is the president of the Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body.
If we don't have a deliberate program for rice production in Ghana, it will be very, very difficult to discourage people from importing. And if you look at what is happening today, everybody eats rice. Rice is very easy to prepare. You understand? So I don't understand why government is not looking at this. We are spending over $1 billion to import rice. We are advocating for government to look at those areas. It is not expensive to develop those valley bottoms. It is very expensive to put up a very huge irrigation fields like we have at Esuchare and the Botanga and the Pualugu ones. You see, currently, when you produce rice today, within the next 6 months, the rice is gone. So if you're going to depend on the irrigation fields that we have, I don't think we're going to have enough. We are advocating this year that government should look at the valley bottoms where it is easy to develop a 20-acre. Just have a borehole or dig a place to store water for rice. Rice depends on water. Rice is not like plantain or cocoyam or maize. Rice depends on water a lot. So if we can develop those valley bottoms for the farmer to work, believe me, 2 regions, the Western, Central region, and even Ashanti, making it 3. If we develop the valley bottoms, believe me, we'll be self-sufficient in rice production in Ghana. Around 2010 all the way up to about 2017, people had bad stories about local rice. But today, I can confidently tell you that some of the rice we produce here is better than the foreign rice. If you look at the packaging, you know, if you want to sell your product to people, you need to prepare the product nicely. If you look at some of the product on the market, you'll be surprised that you might not differentiate between what we produce in Ghana and the foreign ones.
Nana Ajay-Aye II says there may be shortages of the Ghana rice commodity by the first quarter of next year as a result of some challenges, and the country should brace themselves for that.
I'm not too happy with what is going on. This year, we are going to run out of rice. It is true because a lot of people did not produce rice this year because in the beginning of the year, you realize that there was fertilizer shortage. So most of the farmers, the big farmers we know who are part of this organization in the northern region, some part of the Brong-Ahafo region, didn't do rice, they did sorghum. So this is an issue. By February, I'm afraid we might run out of local rice.
The Rice Festival takes place at the Ifwa Sutherland Children's Park on Friday. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kwejenyako, Accra.
Now, the chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obinyi-Boabante, is asking governments to arrest and prosecute bigwigs behind illegal mining activities in Ghana. He describes Galamsey as demonic and therefore wants the perpetrators to be treated as terrorists. He believes banning all forms of small-scale mining will go a long way in restoring sanity in the forest and water bodies. There's more in this report.
Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obriyeboamante decried the alarming rate at which water bodies and forests are being depleted. He observed that galamsey activities are getting out of hand in some communities. Religious leaders have already petitioned the president to demand an explanation on the thriving menace despite the government's assurance to end it. He was speaking at an event to climax the centenary anniversary celebration of the Asante Presbytery in Kumasi.
In fact, the way I galamsey, I shall find this idea a terrorism. What terrorizing Ghana? Terrorizers, and they should be treated like that. A serious matter. Say, a big in codes, to assassin was in the now room back, where galamsey will go 2 for 1 up of which you because the toilet ever fear or not, or come now. Why to be that? Now you're at home. Now you're at home.
Right Reverend Professor J.O.Y. Mante wants all big wigs behind the galamsey prosecuted and excavators seized. He described the galamsey operations as demonic.
I am praying for a day. I can see back as a former most Ghana of the machines. Never to TV. You can't tell Ghana for say where you are cheap. I don't want to be one more. At time yet. From Chapoko country, President Fonina, and the Christopher Fonina, and the Cremofonina said, Moderator say, Gadan say, a Juma Bonnie, a demonic, a evil, a sight of man, a sight is a say, that you be in sure, that you be in the other number yet, and whoever you are, I'm telling you, it is evil, so stop.
Given the current economic difficulties, Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obriyeboamante advised the government to be moderate in its expenditure. He is positive this will restore fiscal discipline in the country. He also wants the number of ministers in government reduced.
About to and taking drastic measures. Now you cannot be so. Won't you cannot be yes, won't you cannot be Won't you cannot maybe so? And for the ministers and our boss are there with the fact. Yes, they would say that you are in a crisis situation. As of for any channel for any moderator for, you are entity so can I get the entity so.
Mona Lisa Frimpon reporting.
Now, the president of the Kumasi branch of the Ghana Science Association, Professor Jacob Agbenohevi, is attributing low standards of STEM education to lack of teaching resources. He says the situation is hampering the teaching and learning of STEM. He spoke at the closing ceremony of a 3-day workshop for senior high school teachers in Kumasi.
Professor Agbenohevi wants government and policymakers to heed to the recommendation of STEM professionals and specialists. He was speaking at the closing ceremony of a 3-day workshop for senior high school teachers by the Ghana Science Association Kumasi branch and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The workshop, dubbed Tailoring STEM Education for National Development, will afford educators the opportunity to ascertain problematic areas in learning and teaching of STEM, including ICT.
We realize that these teachers, most of them are from less endowed schools, and they lack the needed resources, the labs, the basic apparatus, tools, and reagents to perform the various practicals related to the courses they are teaching. So it means that without these materials, they will find it difficult teaching. So it means actually government is being called upon here and other stakeholders to help provide the needed resources in these schools so that they will be able to teach effectively. Aside that, Ghana Science Association contributes to various policy making. We expect government to be listening to the experts from the members of the Ghana Science Association.
Some of the participants were happy the workshop has been practical and impactful.
In biology, teachers, we have challenges in topics like cell division, when it comes to respiration, glycolysis, Krebs cycle. So these parts are a bit technical and it involves chemistry too. So when it comes to that side, we had a lot of challenges, some of us. And we've been taking through some of these topics, and we know from this time onwards, we will be able to help our students very well.
Reporter for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Well, still in the Ashanti region, some 61 candidates will be contesting various executive positions in the National Democratic Congress when the party goes to the polls. Incumbent Regional Chairman Augustus Nana Akwesi faces competition from 3 other candidates, including former Chairman Yao Obimpe. The secretary position will have 4 fresh candidates, as Kwamizu has decided not to contest again. Here is a report.
Clear scenes here at the regional office of the National Democratic Congress is an indication of how prepared the party is for their election come Sunday. As I am speaking to you right now, 63 people filed nomination to contest for various positions of the NDC, but now it is left with 61 aspirants ready to battle it out at the Babayara Sports Stadium. 4 fresh members of the party are contesting for the General Secretary position. Dr. Frank Amwakohene, Samuel Duku Safo, Matthew Kojo Njokone, and the former MCE of the Obuasi municipality, Richard Ofori Ajimambodi, are in the race. Dr. Amwakohene believes he is ahead of his contenders.
And my first and foremost priority is to make sure that administratively I decentralize the region. I'm going to create 5 zones. The 5 zones those zones are going to help us, one, train our constituency executives in terms of orientation, be able to effectively and efficiently distribute our electoral materials, and again help us collate our results effectively and efficiently in 2024. Because our election management system is a bit problematic. That is an area that I really want to work and change so far as the party is concerned. Again, as a party, we are suffering in opposition because the constituency level leaders who are supposed to take care of the branches are not empowered enough to do so. As regional secretary, I'm going to put up a business desk. I'm going to help them groom and then expose them to various opportunities that are available in the system, even in opposition. And again, it will help me know my constituency executives and what they are capable of in terms of their businesses. Now we know them politically. We should be able to know them in terms of their businesses and who will be fit to man which area when we come to power. Because in forming government in 2024, which I'm very confident that NDC is going to form the next government in 2024, we need the human resources, we need the manpower to be able to man the various areas so far as governance is concerned.
The Ashanti Regional Communications Director Abbas Nuruddin is being contested by his deputy Alex Asafo Ejeyi. The campaign between the two has been competitive. 3 people are competing: the incumbent chairman Augustus Nana Akwesi. The return of former chairman Yao Obimpe has muddied the waters for the incumbent, but some party folks are of the view that the incumbent is the obvious choice.
Miss Ashanti Region delegates say omuntu abamma Nana Akwesi wono na wotima ewa ahomoboro ehwa awonbrase
womo pre womo so womo pe chairman no party no ko opposition no menua yahu womo party no biem omamba wo party no ba bia abusua me kacho adechina ko Nana Akwesi fia ate se de edidwa masa Nana Akwesi ni nipa wo NDC fo mobo nti abusua mesre me kacha santema mu nyina se abano yento ma Nana Akwesi.
Reporting for JoyNews, Nana Boachi Dankwa Yadom.
That's where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the news, and have a pleasant weekend. My name is Kwesi Shandoff. For more, log on to www.myjoyonline.com. The show continues with Benjamin Akakpo and Mapito CBD. Stay.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the news review, and we're about to get right into it. I'm joined by Samuel Kotobris. Charlie, put it there. I mean, you know that.
Yeah, it's the action. This is UGUCC. That's
yeah. UGUCC.
Yeah,
you're bringing in the UCC thing. There's something that. But today I'll not cut you down to size. I'll not cut you down to size.
Oh, but you know it's difficult for a UG person to cut a UCC person.
Oh,
down to size,
it's an everyday thing. We do it every day.
Well, I don't know.
But UCC, I mean, I just like the fact that your pedigree. I mean, to which institutions can I compare you to? I don't want to do that this morning because some people may take it the wrong way. But you have a good pedigree. You're just not at the level of.
Well, for your information, we are the number one in research in West Africa. Hold on. We are number one in Ghana. We are fourth in Africa. I don't know where you lie, so please give us.
On that same log this year, and there are different, organizations that undertake these.
You can't beat
studies
Times.
Or this.
You can't beat Times.
Times higher.
Yes, you can't beat it.
The only bit is we've been here so many times. The fact that you are here, I mean, once in every 10 years or so, and you make noise about it. For those who are constantly there, I mean, there's no need to trumpet it. This is commonplace to us.
Okay. For your information, last year or two, we were here. So really, it's not once in every 10 years, please. Let's move on.
So twice in every 10 years.
That's not it. I mean, we're always there. University of
Cape Coast
is always there.
Where you were here, where?
I mean, we are highly ranked when it comes to research.
You're highly ranked.
Exactly.
You were not the top school.
We were. We've been and we are.
Ayo.
Yeah. So that's it.
This morning.
But forgive me, University of Ghana student and alumni. The truth is one. You only have to give due respect to the University of Cape Coast. We are the number one in research in Ghana, in West Africa, and fourth in Africa. And that's something that you have to work hard to beat. So that's it, yeah.
Anyway, so let's do this. What is your fuel situation like now?
So what I did from last week's experience was to come and patch my cousin who lives in Dansoman.
Okay, because you come through Lashibi, right?
Exactly, so I'm living in Lashibi. So I have to drive all the way here every day. So when I looked at my expenditure the other week, I said, no, that's not sustainable. So we spoke on Sunday. He said, Charlie, come and lodge over. So I've been at Dansoman since Sunday. So the whole week I've driven to work from Dansoman. And look, my fuel expenditure is 350 cedis the whole of the week from Dansoman. So it's improved tremendously. And it's been positive so far.
Anyway, well, we keep grappling with the situation.
What about yours?
Hey, Masa, Yankon.
Because you have not moved.
Again. No, yesterday. I had to top up again. And trust me, I am bleeding already. You know, when you top up like that and you try and once you see the first bar go.
Yes.
Now I come out.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I do.
Because once it goes, you know that Wahala don't come. It's not moved yet. I filled only yesterday.
Okay.
It's not moved yet by God's grace. Sometimes we even add prayer to the then you be praying so that the weight of the something.
But do you realize now you look at your gauge as you move?
I started that months ago.
Charlie.
You know, I laugh at myself. I share with friends and I laugh at myself because previously I don't remember any year in my driving life where I am consciously, maybe unless you know that you are running out and you just want to ensure that maybe you can make it to the next filling station. So you keep an eye on it. But in my entire driving life, I have never had to do this until this year, where consciously, every time, every few minutes, my eye goes there. In fact, it's unconscious. It's not even planned. I just find my eyes going there because my brain sort of tells me, Charlie, is your fuel running out? Is your fuel running out? And it's a real pity. But anyway.
Maybe we have to look for places closer to our workplace.
No, that's another situation. But have you, on a more serious note, have you inquired in Kokomlemle, you know, in terms of accommodation? Massa! Like we see Prato say, massa!
But from my expenditure in fuel, even if they are taking
that's a good point.
I may take that one.
Checks and balances.
Yeah. Because if you look at the fuel expenditure, if I use my last week expenditure alone, it means that a month I may be spending close to 4,000 cedis on fuel.
I spend over 4,000.
You see, but accommodation, a decent accommodation can charge more than 1,500. So I'd rather take that one.
Cut your losses.
Exactly.
I mean, imagine you were somewhere close by and you could even walk, maybe a 5-7 minutes, let's say 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
You leave the car parked.
So it means
walk
that
here,
I save 2,500 from fuel expenditure a month if I should live close. So Charlie, right now we're going to look for a house which is close to our workplace now. Because we can't cope with what's happening.
I am actually already searching. But today I'll be sharing my blunt thoughts just to share with you on Ghana's leadership experiment gone horribly wrong.
Oh.
Unveiling the frauds.
Really?
Ghana's leadership experiment gone horribly wrong. Unveiling the frauds.
You feel we've been experimenting with our leadership thing?
We have.
And we've gotten it wrong this time.
Do you remember Someche?
Yeah.
Try me.
I do. Well, your sentiment is shared by Afriye Ankara. You remember him? Elvis Afriye Ankara. Yeah, he's submitted his forms or filed his forms to contest as the General Secretary of the NDC. And he said voting for the president was the worst experiment Ghanaians have ever engaged in. So maybe the two of you are thinking alike anyway.
Well, let's get into the papers, bro. Let's find out. What do you have? The Ghanaian Times?
I have the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, and the Finder.
There's an interesting story in the Finder about Majority Leader Oseichi Mensah Bonsu. We'll be getting into that as well. But let's check out what you have in the Ghanaian Times news.
Anyway, so let's start from the Ghanaian Times. Now, let's reform UN Security Council. President appeals to the world leaders. 10% Ghanaians diabetic. Whoa. NDAG president says. And Aisha Wan refused bail again. Now, let's start with the Aisha Wan case, because it's an interesting one everybody is following. Aisha Wan, the Chinese woman accused of engaging in illegal mining, on Wednesday broke down when the Accra High Court turned down an application for bail again. However, Aisha Wan's lawyer, Captain Retired Nkrabia Efadate, reapplied for bail, explaining that his client, I'm sure they wanted to write his, was on bail during her trial in 2017. The defense counsel said, and I quote, "I am not saying you should leave her. I'm only asking that as the case continues, please allow her liberty in terms of movement, subject to the condition that the court would indicate. 5 years ago, while my client was on trial on similar charges, she never absented herself from any of the court sitting date," end of quote. Well, it ties in with Professor Michael Quay's lecture within the week. You know, he's been contributing to the constitutional review that's organized by the IEA. And he says that judgment that the Supreme Court gave on Martin Pegu's case, that made every case bailable, must be looked at. He feels that it is not something we have to look at. Now, other people have reacted and have said that even though the Supreme Court gave that judgment, it lies in the bosom of the judge to grant someone bail or not. And this case is quite critical.
Yeah.
That even though every case is bailable now, the judge sitting on this case says, I am not going to give you bail. I'm going to keep you with the security agencies, so that they can produce you any time they want to, and again to help them in their investigation.
And there's precedent in terms of these situations. You remember the first time when she supposedly absconded?
Yeah.
You know, there are so many different angles to that conversation and the story, but I guess there are some reasons for this enterprise that is being. But of course, we've moved from the bailable and non-bailable offences, like you said, Martin Pebu's court case, which was a landmark case, but I guess the buck stops with the courts.
Let's see how it goes. But this judge has really declared her intention that she really wants to help to deal with this illegal mining. So let's see how this one goes. Now, let's reform UN. But in relation to that, yesterday there was a story we brought to our viewers.
Yeah. What Mr. President has been saying?
No. I mean on the Galamsey thing. You remember this a place in Ashanti region where a lady died when she was sitting on the toilet in a house.
I think I recall a story like that.
The young man who spoke to JoyNews was beaten mercilessly.
Oh, that one, yes.
By some Galamseyers. And the shocking thing is that the DCE's name was mentioned in this, and according to our reporter, the DCE has not taken any action. And it really raises eyebrows that your name was mentioned as being the one who is, funding some people. And they've beaten this young man at the center of this whole thing. And then no action has been taken on it. I think the DC should really act as the head of
There should be some action. I've seen footage of the person speaking, and it's really pathetic. I mean, it's really sad.
Now, let's reform UN Security Council. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has called for the reform of the Security Council of the United Nations, describing the current structure as an injustice against African countries. Speaking at an event organized by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation yesterday in New York, President Akufo-Addo noted that the Security Council was constrained by its anachronistic structure. Ben, you are the English master.
Anachronistic.
What does that mean?
So more like antiquated, no longer relevant.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Redundant.
Okay. A farmer learning from the English person, so please bear with me.
You're not, remember your dabble.
I'm a farmer, President Akufo-Addo noted the Security Council was constrained by its anachronistic structure and methods, which undermined efforts to tackle contemporary challenges in the most effective manner. According to the president, the current structure of the UN Security Council represented a long-standing injustice towards the countries of Africa, and the time is long overdue in addressing it. So that's our president putting the African case out there. I think the call is that involve more African countries to have permanent seat on the Security Council as well. It's not a case where we will be voted in for a period and then we'll go off because we don't have permanent seats there.
Right.
It's time an African country. And I'm sure when they look at the continent, they may get
three countries come to mind.
Okay.
I mean, and they are the economic juggernauts of the continent. Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria.
Well,
at least one of them can do it. I would, Nigeria, yes, but owing to some, reputational issues sometimes. I would put all three of them, but I would go for either South Africa or Egypt.
Well,
that would be me.
Exactly.
My knowledge of international politics, I would go for one of the two.
Now, you gave a beautiful condition that with the reputational issues, you'd go for the two. And I think a lot of people will analyze which of the three should get onto the council if the need should arise, would also go on that tangent that, well, Nigeria is a powerhouse, Egypt is, South Africa is, but looking at reputation-wise, you may have to go, you may have to choose either of Egypt or South Africa. So you're right out there. But this story must get on.
And if you hadn't even mentioned it, I would have brought you back. I was going to bring you back. The 10% issue.
Exactly, yes. Now, about 10% of Ghanaian population is diabetic. President of the National Diabetes Association, Ghana, Elizabeth A.C. Denyo, has said. Now, according to her, the prevalence of the disease continued to soar in the country, and it was important that citizens take seriously the practice of regularly testing to know their sugar levels for prompt management and care. And I think I'm told that for those of us who live, they call it sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, sedentary. So you are sitting most of the time. You are not active. You don't work out. You don't walk much. Car to work, car back home. Not much walking. You're sitting. Or for those who are couch potatoes, like we call them, they don't go anywhere. They're at home, sitting in the couch, watching television. In the US, you would find some of those throughout the day. Yeah, it's a recipe for, health disaster.
So can we use our up and downs at work as part of the working out?
That's why some of these smartwatches recently, they measure your walking in the course of the day. Some would peg you at 10,000 steps, 15,000, depending on your settings. It's all part of it. I do a hike. It's been over a month because I fell sick, I traveled and all of that. But I do this hike about 10, 11 kilometers every week, once every week. I do other things. Because if you don't do that, looking at the sort of things we are eating nowadays, the sort of lives we're leading, the sort of stress, the stresses we are under. If you don't do some of these things, you'll find yourself in hot places.
And diabetics is quite dangerous if you get there. When they say someone is diabetic, so we all have to exercise to ensure that we don't get to that level. And like she said, we need to test to understand or to get to know our sugar levels. Because if you know earlier, I think they can put you on remediary
at least to prevent you from
from getting there. Because I've seen people who are diabetic and look,
You could even go into diabetic shock.
It's very pleasant.
There are so many things when there are those spikes in your sugar levels. I know people who have, but we just have to, it means we have to focus on this. As we look at HIV and AIDS, you know, the statistics in recent times are nothing to write home about. When we look at, you know, diabetes, it just means that we have to do a lot more. Sometimes too, people affected by this put pressure on our system because their kidneys are affected. And when their kidneys are affected, you know, there are these gadgets. The name just skips me. Is it nephrology? But there are gadgets for, you know, those, I think, dialysis.
Dialysis, yeah.
You know, and all of that. And sometimes we have few of them. Very few hospitals have them. It's so expensive. It puts pressure on our health system. But let me bring in Ben Efson, managing editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Uncle Ben, a very good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Efson.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to our viewers.
Great. We've started off the conversation. We've looked in the Ghanaian Times at different stories. And we were just talking about those 10% of Ghanaians that supposedly are diabetic. That's according to the NDAC president. And we've also looked at that story. Kojo Brace, can you just help me? So let's reform UN Security Council. And the president wants a reformation for at least one African country to be there. And then Aisha Huang refused bail again. Any quick reactions before we move to other papers?
Well, I think I will deal with the issues of diabetes because I am one. And I would like to appeal to our viewers to be very careful before you get there. Because the nature of our job is sedentary. And you will be working a lot, but when you sit down after 30 minutes, take a walk. This is my 48th year in the job. When I was in university, I was an athlete, playing volleyball, handball, and so on. The nature of our job, we journalists are seriously at risk. And I must say, without shame, that if you get there, you will have to be 120% careful. You must be checking your sugar morning and evening. Because if you get there and you even stop eating sugar, you may get an infection you may not be aware. And your sugar will get out of control. So if you are not there, I beg you, to thank for being there. And when you are there, and you don't even put sugar on your tongue, please check your sugar morning and evening. The cost of buying equipment to check your sugar is far cheaper than the consequences of your sugar harming your organs, like Benjamin. So it is a very serious thing.
Well, coming from someone who has been there and done that, I mean, we can't underestimate this. And it goes back to the sort of ways in which we live. Like I said, mind what you eat, mind what you put into your body, whether drink or food. Also mind how you work out or not work out. Some of the workouts too may be excessive for your body. Know what to do. If it's aerobic exercise, you have to keep your heart running properly. I mean, there are so many things that we have to be looking at.
I mean, one thing is that if you have it, and you may decide never to take sugar, you may be doing exercises, please check your sugar. That is the thing, because once you are diabetic, sugar will hardly get into your system. If you get like UTI infection, you may not know. Your sugar will get out of control. You'll be hitting 20 when for maybe 3 years, you haven't touched sugar.
Wow. And that is when you can go into shock. Your body could go into shock.
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm begging viewers, if you are diabetic, don't say you are going to stop eating sugar, you don't take soft drinks, so you will not check your sugar level. Yes, it is expensive, maybe the equipment will take your level, but it is not pleasant if you get like a ETI infection. If we hit 20 without taking sugar for 2 years and exercising morning, it's not pleasant. So if you are not there, I beg you, prevent yourself from getting there.
And it's a very important point he makes as we move on, because even insulin injections, when you get there, you know the body naturally produces insulin. When you become diabetic, sometimes the production is not exactly what it means. So you have to get injected. And an insulin shot, Charlie, in these economic times, I know people who ration shots. Ration, like I'm supposed to take a full shot, I'm taking half of that or something just to try and maintain my balance, but it's dangerous. So indeed, it's a real caution. We ought to prevent ourselves.
We need to exercise more. Okay.
In fact, let's look at the Daily Graphic newspaper. Kwabre East constituents cry over neglect. Story on page 18. It's 9 days to World Cup 2022 in Qatar. Of course, Qatar has faced a barrage of maybe inquests, criticism and all of that on their human rights record, on this and that. But even I think I saw Seb Blatter, I read a story where he admits that it may have been a wrong choice to choose Qatar. That's what he says. But willy-nilly, like it or not, it is there and we're going to play. My only sadness, people have said that it's being played in the middle of major leagues across the world, and that means people are prone to injury, and we've seen some big names prominently in Africa. Sadio Mane. I'm broken by that. It really hurt.
But I heard I've not seen the Senegalese team list, but I heard them say that they will give him traditional medicine and take him there. I'm waiting to see their list to know whether they are taking him.
This is a tendon issue, I heard, and it will take a number of weeks, and we're just 9 days.
It's so bad. I mean, I feel bad for Mane. I feel bad for Mane.
There's also terrorism in Africa. UN inaction fuels attacks. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Majority-minority disagree on Ofori-Atta's censure, and NDC begins regional polls. Let's take a quick look at some of those stories. Let me start with the one on page 18. Kwabre East constituency is not only one of the politically active constituencies in the Ashanti region, but also hosts the dreaded Akan Shrine, Antwanyama. It is also known for its kente weaving exploits. The constituency is home to the Adang Womase Kente Weaving Center, and Tonsu Edinkra Carving Center, and the Ahian Woodcraft Center. The famous Antwa is a river god where people go to seek solutions to their problems. Now, the few town roads in the constituency are not tarred and become difficult to ply during the rainy season. However, the Member of Parliament for the area, Ms. Francisca Ting-Mensah, has assured her constituents that she is in constant touch with the Ministry of Roads and Highways to improve on the road network in the constituency. They talk about the economic impact and how politics has been played with them time and again. But President Akufo-Addo has said the inaction of the UN Security Council, which continues to contemplate whether and how to intervene in terrorist attacks in West Africa and the Sahel, fuels the spread of instability across Africa. He says, while it could be admitted that the political context for the Security Council's involvement was complex and the operating environment dangerous, the earlier a collective action was taken to support efforts to halt the incessant killing and annihilation of communities, the better. Let me just wrap with page 20, and I'll bring in Dr. Efsin and Kojo as well. That story about the majority and the minority. So, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, has referred the minority's motion on the vote of censure against the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, to an 8-member ad hoc committee to probe the allegations made against him. The committee, which was constituted by the Speaker in consultation with the leadership of the House, will assess the veracity or otherwise of the allegations made by the minority. But, Kojo and Mr. Efsin, you know that Article 82 of the Constitution states that Parliament may, by a resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all MPs, pass a vote of censure on a minister. The minority felt that the Speaker, who is from their side, was in error. And I think the Chief Whip had a bit of a nasty altercation with the Speaker. Let me start with you, Ben. What are your quick reactions to this? The Kwabre East constituents crying over neglect. Then there is UN inaction fueling attacks, and the majority and minority issue over Ken Ofori-Atta's censure. Do you think Ken should stay?
That the minority, with due respect, have not been smart. You know, the president is behaving like today an MPP MP said in a letter to us that if Ken Ofori-Atta is sick, for example, everybody gets sick and it's on admission. Is he going to tell the IMF that when Ken recovers, then we negotiate with you? No. Now, the majority has agreed with the president, whatever it is, out of respect, that Ken should leave at the end of negotiations with the IMF, which is basically about 6-7 weeks away. If I were an advisor to the minority, I would say, look, there's a proverb in trees that if you open no people who have skin diseases, they will say they haven't got soup to pass. Give them soup, they will not pass. In 7 weeks after presentation or after dealing with IMF, and the president does not sack him, I am very sure that this thing would have gone through because the majority in Parliament would have sided with the minority. The minority went too far because by their posture, they really pushed the majority to see if they could disrespect the president. But if they had waited and...
Do you think, Mr. Efson, it's a matter of disrespect? I mean, the calls have not just come from the minority. The calls have come from people, CSOs, major people, stakeholders in this country who have said that Ken must go. In fact, yesterday I was just sitting here with the Member of Parliament for Ifija, Kwabre North, I believe, and he re-echoed that, look, there's a majority conclusion that he must go. It's just uncertain when exactly he will go. And the minority are saying they want to ensure, for the sake of Ghana, that the right thing is done because the president has not shown that he is willing to let go of Ken Ofori-Atta. Mind you, even when the majority came out and said that they had met with Mr. President, they did not say, there was no definitive timeline. Is it after the budget presentation? Is it after the appropriation? What exactly? No one knows. So can you fault them?
My understanding then is that they had agreed that the president said they should let him conclude with the IMF negotiations. And that is why an MP was saying that, well, the president behaving as if Ken is sick and is on admission, you tell the IMF to wait for Ken. But, you know, it's 7 weeks, 7 weeks away, or even 6 weeks away. That is when I think that the majority would have given the president, would have sent a signal to the president that, yes, you appoint people who will go back to our constituents to face internal elections within our party before we do the general election. So I think that this is where I think there was a bit of fault from the minority side, because all along, even though I'm not a member, I have friends on both sides, and I realize that many of the majority, if after negotiation with the IMF, the president has not sacked Ken, or Ken has not been asked to resign, perhaps on health grounds, the president would have been surprised. So the minority did not play their game well. They were hasty. But if it happens that way, then I can assure you that the majority will side with the minority for Ken to go.
Okay.
I think that the president is behaving like, with due respect, a typical second-term president. But this attitude, like going to Kwabre, saying that you can vote for NDC, and this attitude towards Ken, I don't think the president would have dared do it in his first term. But when president on their last term, I think they're a bit reckless, and this is a typical example.
All right. It's a bit reckless.
Yeah, but for me, I'm wondering why the finance minister himself has not voluntarily said, well, it's enough, I'll leave it here. Because from the way
he's been through the pain.
No. From yesterday, I was asking, 2 days ago, I was speaking to the General Secretary and I asked him, the cries of Ghanaians, majority, you follow on social media, you follow on mainstream media, majority says this man should go. Why would he still be there against the will of Ghanaians? Who gave them the power?
Well, we have a different political system in terms of mindset. We don't have people. It's not commonplace.
No, you say
resign like that.
You say you went to school outside. You've had all the exposure out there.
Right.
Behave like them. I mean, if I were in his shoes, I would have gone by now.
When have our leaders through the Fourth Republic behaved that way? Never.
Well, I remember Charles Bishop said, "Okay, I'm going to step down. Investigate me."
No.
Yeah.
There was a directive.
No.
There was a directive. He did not voluntarily.
When his issue came, he decided to say, "I'm going to step down." But let's put it aside. The point is that if I were the finance minister, it is better for you to leave than to be hounded out.
Right.
That will destroy, your reputation. So I think that he should rather go. But when it comes to roads, even in my constituency, Hunter West, the road leading to our 3 paramounts are all bad. The one from Agron Kwanta to Buzia, terrible. Agron Kwanta to Disco, where we have 2 paramounts, is terrible. So really, something drastic should happen to our roads. But we say we don't have money too, so we pray for better days. Anyway, let's do the Delhi guide. NPP MPs to boycott Oforiatta budget faces Parliament trial. I think that's an important story. Ex-store boss arrested in the UK. GNDA observes World Diabetes Day. I think we dealt with that. Apology to Wan Shandong. Agrada begs for bail term change. Now, members of Parliament belonging to the NPP say they would boycott the 2023 budget presentation in Parliament if Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta is not removed from office. Now, speaking for the MPs, Dr. Nana Yao Afriye, said the finance minister should not be the one to read a government budget statement and lead the appropriation thereof, indicating that they still stand by their word after the intervention by President Akufo-Addo. So, look, Ben, I think that is that. Again, let me deal with the tour boss arrested in the UK, ex-tour boss. Now, he says former managing director of Tema Oil Refinery, Asante Beku, has been arrested in the UK over his alleged involvement in bribes paid to some Ghanaian officials while working at the Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated, a US multinational investment bank and financial services company. He was arrested last week at Heathrow Airport in London and remains in custody on charges that he orchestrated bribes, having conspired with at least 2 Ghanaian officials and 4 others in a bribery scheme, Bloomberg reported. So that's it. So with the MP, goes to say that, I mean, the finance minister should know that his own house is rejecting him. If they reject him in Parliament, who would support him when he comes to
There's a saying in the Bible, a house divided cannot stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's quickly do the Daily Dispatch and Republic Press. The Daily Dispatch this morning, Minister of Agric's bizarre decision. You can check out details of that on page 2 of the paper. There's also NPP MP's call for repeat of our story. President, will you ask IMF to wait for Ken's recovery if he falls sick? That's a question, and we've already had some discourse on that. NDC Sami Jemfi apologizes to Samira Baumia for lying about her. In fact, Republic Press also carries that story. It has to do with the assertion that there is a V8 in her convoy that is solely for carrying makeup bags and makeup artists, and he's come out to apologize for that. President Akufo-Addo to grace GJA's award ceremony tomorrow. All of those major stories in the Daily Dispatch. But Republic Press, reduced ministers to 40. Professor Bokman to Akufo-Addo, and MPs mark Oforiatta Day. All of that in Republic Press. There's also Speaker sets committee to probe motion, that ad hoc committee of 8 people. Any quick reactions to those before we move on? I'm done with the papers I have. Mr. Efson.
Well, I think that basically Sami Jemfi's apology should send a signal to people. When you are in the politicians, when they are in the heat of speaking, they should leave a bit of their thinking cap on, maybe halfway. But you go and tell persons that second lady has a V8 full of only makeup kits and artists, it doesn't gel, And I think that maybe it's good that he apologized, But people look up to the politicians wherever they are, and they just must exhibit a bit more of decorum when they open their mouth. Some of them have very loose tongues.
Okay, let's do the find and just one story from there. Che Mensah Bonsu to replace Oforiatta as finance minister. That's a question they're asking. Even before President Nana Akufo-Addo decided the fate of finance minister Ken Oforiatta, intelligence picked up suggests that some people are fiercely lobbying to replace him. This reveals the motive behind the call for Oforiatta's removal from office. As a group, the members of parliament who are demanding Oforiatta's removal have not provided names of possible replacement, but they have declared openly that they want one of their members to replace him. Majority caucus sources have hinted that some MPP MPs and some party leaders are backing Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu to replace Oforiatta.
What is Osei Mensah Bonsu's background? We'd have to check. What I know doesn't... I know at a point he had to read the budget statement because the finance minister was sick. But to serve as finance minister, I don't know. Of course, we've not had him come out and show face, openly lobby for the position. But I don't know about this, honestly. I don't know.
Well, Marcus Ibeyebo's name has also come up, so interesting.
I mean,
you know him. He was the former chairman of the finance committee.
In real terms, but he is no longer a member of parliament.
Yes,
no longer.
But his name isn't there.
Right. But I should think that looking at the names that the MPP has, they should really not struggle to replace Ken Oforiatta.
No, not at all. Not at all. They shouldn't. They have very incredible guys that who can do the job. So.
Right. Ben, you have the final word in some 30 seconds, so we wrap.
Well, I think that if Ken is to be replaced, perhaps I keep a former member of parliament, I've forgotten the name. He's no more in parliament. He used to be for one of the Kokwidra constituency.
We mentioned his name, Dr. Mark Osei.
Yeah, I agree with you. Osei could be the next finance minister.
Okay, and those are the words of Benefsin. Osei Asibe, Dr. Mark Osei Asibe could be the next finance minister. Mr. Efson, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for the food. Have a blessed weekend to our viewers.
And we wish you the same. Kojo?
Yeah.
Fabum. Yeah, man. He's a solid guy.
So, in my hometown, in my language, you say, Yalabasi Kebuhralia. Yamara Uwaya na Evaeho na Evera. So, to it, thanks for watching. Let's have a good weekend. God should protect us, take us wherever we're going, and bring us back. Yeah.
Bless you, Kojo. Coming up next is Prime Take. And this week, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi speaks to former Black Stars midfielder Laryea Kingston. I've been personally waiting for this one. He shares the story of how he started out as a fishmonger and at the point almost ventured into boxing before football found him. Enjoy.
Lai, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You're always on your laptop. What are you doing there?
You know, we have to put things together. I just finished training.
Yeah.
After training, I come to the office and then try to plan for the next one. Evaluate the section and then plan for the tomorrow's section. So that's why you can always see me going on my laptop.
Yeah, your life has always been football.
Yeah, because I don't see myself doing something else. Because I love the game so much that I can't stay away from it. So that's why I'm still in it.
How did you start out for you to like football that much?
It's in the blood. Because my dad played football.
Okay.
My dad was a goalkeeper for Accra Great Olympics before moving to Accra, Suffolk.
Oh, okay.
And also played for the national team as well. So it's in the blood. Most of my siblings know how to play football, especially the men, the boys in my family, all of them. But it's only myself and my senior brother Richard Olele Kingston
who played to the high. Top. How was your start out? How was it like?
Like I said, I was born in Jamestown.
Okay.
And grew up there until I moved to my dad's place in Teshi. And you know, we all know Jamestown, you only see football and boxing. You know, beginning I tried to box, but I find passion in football than boxing. So that's how come I focus on football. And
you tried boxing?
Yeah, I tried. Every child in Jamestown will try boxing. You know, even if you don't want to do it, they will bully you on the street. You have to fight to defend yourself. So, but I chose football and
have no regrets.
How was the boxing thing like? Because we don't know you for boxing, we know you for football. How was it like?
It was tough, you know, but everything, especially in sports, whatever you started at a tender age, you grow through that, and then you understand the foundation and everything, and then that will guide you. For me, I believe if I chose boxing, I will still make it like I made it in football.
Really?
Yeah, because I have passion for everything I do. Everything I do, I put 110% in it.
Why are you so talented with punching?
I can defend myself. And
you can punch too?
I know one or two things because I learned the basics.
So how was it like? Who were your, say, your mates or colleagues within the time you were boxing, or were you just a street fighter?
Street fight was there, but Agboko, Joseph Agboko, and then Joshua Clotte.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they were my age group that we started with, and then we have likes of Bessie Tysons and SK Majas. That time, Kote and Afrekote, they were
at the top.
They were ahead of the people I mentioned, Joshua Clotte, Joseph Agboko, and all those people. Even when I was with Starlets under 17 at Winneba, Black Bombers, when they come to in
the Universal Sports College,
Winneba.
Yes.
After my football training, I always go to their sections as well. And sometimes I'm a timer. I hold the time.
Oh, okay. When they are sparring and all that.
Yeah, when they are sparring and all that, I'm the timer, a timekeeper. I'll be keeping the time for them because I love boxing as well.
Growing up in Jamestown, how was it like for you?
It was a tough place. But it's a place that you get everything from there. You know?
Everything like
if you really wanted to, we have a lot of top people that they are well educated. You know, sometimes they only see the bad side of
the other side of
Jamestown. But we have people in Jamestown that they someone like Ajay, the Accra mayor.
Okay, Kasua.
He grew up in Jamestown. Grew up in Jamestown. You can see how well he's educated.
Yeah, he's a learned person.
Yeah, and we have a couple of guys, Nilante Vanderpool. You know, so we have people in Jamestown too that have other side that they've done very well in their life. Apart from the other picture that people see.
Many of you from Jamestown often tell the story about how difficult it was for you to start out. There are issues like you mentioned earlier about education, about your family background. It was very difficult for people to actually even feed. How was yours like?
You know, it's a fishing town.
Yeah.
So every child will, even if you are a student, every child will try to go to the beach to go and hustle small. You know, which we've done it. There is something called kete.
Yes.
You know, there is especially during Christmas. There's particular fish that the fishermen bring.
They
get a lot of those fish, and this is when the young boys in the community try to go there middle of the night. They go early and then come middle of the night. So you go there and gather some fish and you sell. Then you have something small. We've done all those things.
Oh, really? I was just coming to that question. Have you tried that?
You know, we go and hustle. You know, maybe you help pull the canoe to shore. Then after that, they'll give you small fish. Then you go and sell and then make money. Or bring some to the family so that your parents will cook for the whole family to eat. So we've done all that.
How was the street football like?
It was.
Or is it the street life that took you to football?
Yeah, the street life. You know, I'm someone that I don't stay home that much because there are a lot of teams around, especially Greater Accra. Let's say Choco. You go to Mamplobi and play a team in Choco. I play a team in Mamplobi, Nungwa, Labadi.
Yes.
So normally I don't stay at one place when I was young. I stay here for like few days. And I will be moved to a different location, go and play there. So I pick places that I feel comfortable.
Oh, okay.
I'll go to Choco and go and play there. And if I feel comfortable in Nungwa, I'll definitely come back to Nungwa. instead of going back home to Kingston. Once a while, then my mom will come and look for me. And that time I'll be...
I can imagine, were you the last born or what?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't the last born.
But why would your mom come looking for you? Because last borns, we are privileged. Our mothers will look for us.
I was young. I shouldn't have left home that time. But because of the situation I find myself in, I have to go out and then find for myself. You know, if I have to say that. So that allows me to go and then work and then get something out of it. I quite remember some of my colleagues, Edmond Cobson, former player, him and Stephen Appiah, after every training they will go to wager and carry stones, you know, for them to get something small. Or even Stephen Appiah once have become a mate before, trotro mate before. So all these things is just
Did you also try the trotro mate?
No, that's not my thing. Because I was scared. You know, back in the days there is this arrow glass. And most of the mates, they don't allow the trotro to stop. The trotro will be moving and it will be running.
You'll be running.
And I'm scared. I don't want to fall down.
So you grew up with Stephen Appiah and co?
Yes, I did. Stephen grew up around Choco, and I grew up in Jamestown, to be precise.
How come you became friends?
Because we meet each other. Post football, he was playing for Mighty Victory. He was a key player there, and I was playing for Cowley Babies. I was a key player there. So every game, Mighty Victory against Cowley Babies is a rivalry, and we meet in Muchendi as well. Yeah. So we know each other. We know all the top players in that area. All of us, we know each other.
Tell us about the rise to the national team. How were you called up to the national team? The junior national team, U17, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the junior national team, it was coach football. I remember Cowley Babies, we were unbeaten that year. So we have to go and represent Greater Accra, which we did. And in the tournament, I had a very good tournament. I have a solid tournament. That's when I was being picked to represent Ghana U15s. Yes, so we have likes of Corina Tram, likes of Aziz Ansan, Osebwati. Yeah, so we were Hamza Mohammed.
Hamza Mohammed. Is it the Tamale?
The Tamale City School. It was my mate. You know, we met in courts. I think my team and his team, Republicans, we went to the final in the tournament, and Cowley Babies won the trophy.
Wow.
So that's how come we were all scouted to form the national under 15. So that's how come I got close to the national team. And it doesn't end there. It still justify your inclusion. So you still have to keep your position with your performance before you be able. So I managed to stay in and then did well. And then when after 2 years, I was graduated to the U17s. U17s too, it did not end there. You still have to work hard. U17s, I did well, and then I graduated to U20s. So through the ranks, and then when I moved to Europe, that's when the senior national teams
came to the picture. If you have just joined us, we are having a conversation with Laryea Kingston. He's been sharing the story of how he started out, and we are now at a point where he made it to the junior national teams, and we'll move on to his professional level now. But before that, we need to wrap up on playing for the junior national teams. Let us have an idea. What was the junior national team career like?
It was amazing. You know, beginning was a little bit disappointing, but I'm the type of person that I don't give up.
Why was it disappointing?
Yeah, because I went there as a midfielder, but during the trials and everything, the coach, Ike Afrani, may he so rest in peace, put me as a right back. So throughout my under-17 career, I played as a right back, which I played most of the games in the qualifier. But when in the youth championship too, I played all the games. But going to the World Cup in Egypt, C97 World Cup, pre-season in Egypt, I got sick and I lost my spot. You know, so two friendly games built up to the tournament. I couldn't play the game, but the tournament itself, I was fit. but the person that played my position did well. So it's very difficult for him.
Who was that?
It was Razak. Ibrahim Razak. He played for Mighty Jets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He took my place and he was doing well. So I lost my spot. So throughout the tournament, I only played just one game, which is the third game of the group stage.
Yeah.
Because we won all our first 2 games.
Yeah. Okay. So we needed to give other players the opportunity to fill the tournament.
Which I came in and I played very well. So thinking quarterfinals, I would take my shirt back. I went back to the bench. And I quite remember in the final against Brazil, we've had suspensions. Yakubu Abubakar was suspended.
Okay.
He was playing in the midfield.
The late Yakubu Abubakar?
The late Yakubu Abubakar.
Okay.
He was playing at number 6.
Okay.
He was suspended, so all the players were like, oh, so this is the time to put Lai in the midfield. And Afrani said, no, I'm not going to play there. But during the game, he realized, no, he made a mistake by putting me there. He started Awule Ekwe Jr. Awule Ekwe Jr. was a super sub. He comes from the bench and he will come
change the game
with his shots, long drive shots. But he started him and he couldn't finish the game. He slowed down when we needed him most. So that, for me, I think that's one of the key moments that let us down because we did not do our calculation well. Then I graduated to the U20s.
Yes.
The U20s, I was the key player in the team.
The starlight.
Yeah, the key player. that shows the hard-working part.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. Ghana, we have a lot of good players.
Talents.
And your position in the national team is not guaranteed, especially in the youth stages.
Yes.
You need to keep up. Because players that play in the U17s, most of them faded out.
Yes.
Faded out.
It always happens.
Yes, faded out. But myself and few of us, we kept it till we got to the senior national team.
And talk to us about the under 20. Was it the African Championship that Ghana hosted?
Ghana hosted.
And you have a story there to share with us. What is that?
About the Tico car.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was my first car. I had a very good tournament. I remember I scored the only goal in the final against Nigeria.
Yeah.
And after that, I was one man gave me a car, a Tico Daiwo car, which I cherish it most.
Is it still there?
No, it's I wish I can just take the tires out and then just put it on the museum. And everyone knows the car.
We'll go to the museum and say this is Laryea Tico's car.
And they named the car Abinwaha.
Abinwaha?
Yes.
Okay, those cars.
We had Abinwaha.
Yes.
But those days, Tico have just started coming, and in that tournament, they were banding that song, that Lumbe song.
Yes.
They banned it. But during the tournament, anytime we score, then they will play the song
in the
stadium. So that's how come the sound came up again. So when I got the car and I wrote Abinwaha at the back. So you can pass it with the Abinwaha.
So how was it like when you got that car?
No, I was very excited. And that time I don't know how to drive.
So how did you use it?
A friend of mine knows how to drive, so he used it a little bit. So it took me like 2-3 months before I find my feet. Yeah. And
Quite
after
an
that,
interesting
I took
one.
over, nothing else.
And talk to us about your local career. I remember you've played Great Olympics before, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've played for House of
Oak too. Premier League team.
Tell us about the Great Olympic story.
Yeah, with Olympics, before I signed for Olympics, it was Arts of Folk that wanted me.
Okay.
So we were in, like I said, we were in National Under 15 camp, and Arts of Folk came to Winneba to pick myself and Godwin Atram.
Okay.
Because the coast team that we were playing trained on the same pitch with Arts of Folk.
Oh, okay.
The Lotteries.
Okay, the Lotteries Park.
The Lotteries Park.
Yeah.
That's where my coast team plays, and then Arts of Folk trained there.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll be training, and then Arts first team they started coming, the fans will come.
Yeah.
So they've been seeing us training.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's how come they started spotting us. So they came there to pick us, but we told them they have to leave first. So we break camp and we're coming home. So we're supposed to go to Hearts.
Yes.
And then I said to Godwin that I think Hearts of Oak, if we go to Hearts of Oak, there is no way we will get a chance.
You can get a chance to play.
At Olympics, we can. That time, Adekoka was chasing us as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I remember we dropped at Kaneshi, and then I told Godwin, let's go to Olympics training grounds at Labadi.
Okay.
So first we went to Adekoka's office at Adabraka, and he gave us money. Then we went to Olympics training.
How much?
On Friday.
Can you recall?
On Friday. After training there, Olympics is going to play against Kotoko in top 4 game. And then they called me and Coordinator Trump to join the first team to Kumasi.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first Premier League.
So that's how you were signed for Great Olympics?
Yes, from that time. And when we went there, we thought maybe we are young, they'll put us on the bench.
Yeah.
Or even wear a jersey to play in the Premier League game for me, I'm very proud to be in that jersey.
Yeah.
And first 11 came out, and myself and Gordon Trump were starting.
What?
Yes, against Kotoko.
Just like that?
Big game, just like that.
So your first game for Great Olympics was against Kotoko?
Against Kotoko, in Kumasi.
I can imagine.
Yeah, which myself and Trump, we had a very good game. After that, then Adekoka was like, wow, these boys can do it. That's how come Niayamon came in, Dankwe. We were all the same U15.
Oh, okay.
So we brought all of them, Dankwe, Christopher Pelete, Aziz Ansan, Osebwati. We brought them in, and Adekoka signed all of them. Because if these two can do it, then
the others two can. But I also remember there was a Chinchinga story.
Oh, yeah. After that one, after our first training, and you know, Adekoka said, okay, give them one kebab and some more.
Yes.
So Adekoka gave us, and me, I'm hungry. I finished mine there, but Gordon Trump, he wrapped his own in the rubber, and I asked him, what are you going to do? He eat it. He said, no, I'm going to buy KK.
I can imagine. People have got so many interesting stories to share with us. And then you graduated to the national team, and that was how you qualified for the first ever World Cup Ghana participated. Just talk us through briefly that qualification series to the 2006 World Cup.
Yeah, so that time they've played some couple of games, especially in the first round.
Yes.
I was invited the first game against Burkina Faso away game.
Okay.
But that time I've come down from holidays. I was playing in Russia.
Okay.
I've come down for holidays, and then the FA realized I'm in town. That's how come they came to my house and invited me that I should join the team.
And that's how they were inviting you people. They just come to your house and take.
And I said to them, no, you cannot do that. You know, what if my team get to know that I'm on holidays and I'm now playing football? It's not nice. So do the right thing. So I was with the team, but I did not travel with the team to Burkina Faso.
Okay.
I did not go with the team. So I told them the next game they should do the right thing.
You think they should write to your club?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Invitation to the club, and the club will know. Okay. We release it.
Yeah.
Just imagine your club know that you
are here,
and then seeing you playing
international football.
Yeah, it's not right. So, but the next game against Congo away, they did it. The invitation came in and I came. So that was my first game for the...
Was it the away game?
The away game against Congo.
Okay.
Which I had a good game as well. You know, it was... I think I assisted for that goal.
Okay.
Samoa's goal. That gave us 1-1 draw. And then against Burkina Faso, I was on the bench. I couldn't start it because the Doya changed his mind last minute, a day before the match prep, and he changed his mind, put me on the bench. We won the game. Went to South Africa, which is a very big game.
Yeah.
So that moment, after we beat Burkina, we were close to South Africa.
Yes.
So it's like they were leading us by 1 point. So we have to win. So after we beat them, then we came
at the top.
And then we have to play against...
I remember you played Uganda too.
Uganda.
At Baba Yara.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Ghana won 2-0 or something.
Yeah, after South Africa, we played Uganda.
Yes.
And Uganda game, they told us, if we beat Uganda, we've qualified.
It was 2-0, I remember.
After we beat Uganda, we were jubilating, and all of a sudden they told us, hey, we have to beat Cape Verde.
Cape Verde.
Before we can qualify. So It was a tough moment, but we came through.
You went through and you beat Quebec 4-0.
Yeah, 4-0.
Yeah.
Quebec, we were not surprised that we're going to beat them, but we knew it's going to be tough for us. The reason is the pitch that we're going to meet, because that time we and that time Quebec they not invested well in their game, so we were scared that the pitch that we see will affect us. That's why we managed to score early goals and then silence them quickly.
Tell us about the discussions you had within the group as players. What were you telling yourselves?
Yeah, for us, we knew Ghana have been craving for the World Cup for a long time.
Yes.
We've had a lot of good group, but they couldn't qualify.
Yes.
We've been very close with Abedi Pele's group, but it did not happen. So after we beat South Africa, that's when we had the belief that, okay, we can do it. Because at the moment we are at the top, we have to win all the rest of the games.
Yeah.
We know if we win all the games, we are gone. So it's in our hands now. So for us, it gave us a lot of motivation, huge boost for us to qualify the nation. Because we know Ghana is a football nation. Other North African countries have been there. Countries that we won the Nations Cup 3 times before they even came there several times, and even Nigeria was there. And Nigeria, Ghana.
When you use the word even Nigeria,
exactly, Nigeria was there. So that alone, we also have to be there.
Yes.
So that gave us the motivation, and we know that we have to do everything possible to qualify it. And I was very happy or privileged to have a wonderful team around me. Because the love that we share. I always say that we are not the best group Ghana have ever had, but we love each other. We love each other. And
how can people love each other like that?
Yeah, this is it. We've been friends before we even met in the national team. When you look at Michael Essien and Sule Mutare, they've been friends when they were playing for Liberty Professional.
Yes.
If you look at myself, Stephen Appiah, from childhood.
And you were the quartet.
Exactly. So you see the condition.
I do recall, was there some game like this, was it against Congo or something, we're watching on black and white television, you gave a very long pass, diagonal pass to the end of the pitch, and Stephen Appiah trapped the ball and the whole place clapped. I do recall that.
It comes automatic, So like I said, if you love someone, everything you share with the person easily without thinking. So that's what our strength.
So what kind of a leader was Stephen Appiah for this group?
Oh, he's someone that wanted everyone to be on the same platform.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't own anything. We have leaders that they'll be like, oh, I'm the leader.
I'm the leader.
Stephen Appiah, he makes sure he gives responsibility to everyone.
Everyone on the pitch.
To own it. Even off the pitch. You won't see Stephen Appiah addressing the group. You won't see him addressing the group. He believes Essien can do it. He believes John Mensah can do it. He believes I can do it. So most of the times, even calling management meeting is not part of it.
Really?
No, it's not part of it. We do that. He'll be there, and we will do it for him. Yes, that's Stephen Appiah for you.
Like Kingston, speaking to us here on a Prime Take, and it's been quite an interesting conversation so far. I know one thing that got me laughing the most was the Chinchinga aspect. Because for you to rub the Chinchinga to go and buy Kinky shows that there was something somewhere. But Laryea, I will come to the Black Stars participation in the 2006 African Cup of Nations, where you and your mates were not able to have the best of tournament. But before that, tell us briefly, how did you get to Europe?
Yeah, so this is how I got to Europe. The agent, and I will not say it's an agent, the man that took me from Ghana is not an agent.
Oh, okay.
After under 17 World Cup, most of my colleagues, they signed professional contracts.
Yeah, they are gone.
I did not get anything, even the U20s. Domenico Ricci tried to send me to Italy. Went to Venezia, playing for their youth.
Yeah.
Finished my medicals, everything I have to sign, and Richie said I should come and play the U17, under 20 World Cup. Thinking after the 20 World Cup,
there will be a bigger offer.
I came and things doesn't work well, and then Venezia too have signed another player.
Oh.
So I lost that opportunity. So I stayed in Ghana, playing in the Ghana Premier League. But this is what happened. I forgot about everything and then focused on my game, because I know at the right time I will have that opportunity again. So I moved from Olympics to Hearts of Oak, and that year I said to myself, I'll give everything out, and I believe with Hearts of Oak can push me in the.
What was your career with Hearts of Oak like?
Yeah, it was very short, but the impact I did, the impact I made was huge. So that's how come Hearts of Oak fans embrace me.
Yeah.
My career with us was very short, because I played one full season with them, won the league with them. My second season, then I have a loan spell in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
I went on loan, came back, and then I had a chance to go to Israel. So with me with Hearts season, it was just 2 seasons I'm out of Hearts. But the impact I made was very huge.
And the Hearts of Oak fans adore that.
Exactly.
Now let's come back to the national team. 2006 African Cup of Nations. I don't know if you would like to recall what transpired in that tournament.
Oh yeah, it's part of my career, so I have to say it.
Okay, say it.
I don't like thinking about it, but...
Then say it.
Yeah, because...
I remember that opening game against Nigeria when we lost. Needed to win against Senegal. Needed a win against Zimbabwe. All of a sudden, it never worked out. Tell us.
Yeah, but before then, most of us were frustrated.
Why?
Yeah, because our team wasn't the same team that
played the
qualifier.
Yeah.
Because in the qualifier, we have strong, solid team.
Yeah.
But if you can recall, before the Nations Cup in Egypt,
yes,
we've missed at least 3-4 key players.
Yes.
Jan was out. Michael Essien
was out. Suleiman Tari was out. Yeah,
Stephen Appiah was
had an injury, but still he played.
He wasn't 100%.
Yes.
You know, so for me, I felt the players that I am used to, it's not the same. So already the frustration is there already. Not only me, with all the management. So me, I wasn't surprised we did not perform in that tournament.
Okay.
And then also this incident happened against Senegal. Abibe, he punched me. I went down thinking I'm taking advantage of that situation, and then it hit back at me. So I was suspended for 3 games, served 1 against Zimbabwe.
2 more.
2 more in the tournament. But I believe the management then, they don't believe we can go through the group stages. So they feel if they put me in the squad, there's no point. But one thing they forget that not every player in the 23-man squad played. So at least they should do me the honors.
Do you have any regrets of that incident against Senegal?
Yes, of course. I should have run and go for water instead of coming to the scene. I should have run away and go and take water to drink, to cool myself down. But hey, we are a team. It's a team sport. We all have to help each other.
The incident has nothing to do with you.
No, it had nothing to do with me. It was a very bad tackle on Stephen Appiah. And as usual, players will react immediately. And that was the last person that got close to the scene. So it's like players pushing each other, stopping each other, and then Abibe hit me on the chest. But it's not a punch that will take me down, but I want to take advantage on the situation. So I dropped down, and then boom. They said stimulation or something. It's not a point that can take me down. And I got suspended.
And that denied an opportunity of playing at the World Cup?
Yes, that's what happened. And 3 games, 2 to go, Ghana not believing they will go to the next round, so there's no point of me being part of the team.
But do you know if the FA appealed that decision of the red card?
No, they did not. Because I quite remember after the incident, I was chasing them to do it. But you know, 24 hours you should do it before 24 hours passed. But eventually the 24 hours passed without them doing anything. I was pushing them to follow up, at least to reduce the ban, but it did not happen.
I spoke to the former GFA president on this very show, and he said that they filed the appeal, but it was filed out of time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't see the appeal being filed, but because if it says so, then we have to believe.
Yeah, because he told me that it was Alexa Santi who brought it.
Okay.
And then he was in a room with the former Deputy Sports Minister, Obi Amwa, plus another official of the FA that I know.
Okay.
But he said, okay, Alex, you give it to him to file the appeal. So they went on to do other stuff. When they came back to ask me whether he has filed the appeal, he had forgotten.
It was too late. You have forgotten, right? Oh, okay. But that's human error. It's part of the game.
But a human error denied you an opportunity to play at the biggest stage in world football.
Yes, I know, but that's life, you know. It's life. You never know. Maybe if I'm in the World Cup, I won't be sitting here now.
Briefly, the 2010 World Cup that you were dropped was a surprising thing that anyone anywhere could have thought of.
Yeah, that's what killed me. It killed me because in my mind, I've made my mind that after that tournament, I'm done with the national team. That's going to be my last tournament or my last game in the national team because I believe I was aging and I believe I need energy to focus on my football club career because I know I've done a lot for the national team. So after that tournament, I've achieved everything that I want to achieve as a player, the World Cup. And let me focus with this few little energy that I have. Let me focus on my football club career. So that was the mind. And also, my contract was running out with Hearts.
Yes.
6 months in my contract. They were offering me a contract, but they want a pay cut.
Yes.
Because their budget has dropped. So they want me to take half. And I'm thinking, if I go to the World Cup, one game in the World Cup can raise my budget up again. So I was waiting to go to the World Cup and then make a better offer. I was dropped, came back, and that contract did not come again.
You were demoralized, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I was. At some point, my wife had to follow me everywhere in the house. When I moved from France, from France to Scotland, my wife had to follow me everywhere. I go upstairs, she's there. I want to go out.
Were you depressed or something?
Oh yeah. It took me time to go over it because I felt that's the last moment. At that moment, I felt, okay, it's over.
Good morning, Ghana 4. Thank you for staying. And after that exciting bit with Laryea Kingston and my colleague Muftau Nabila, I serve you my blunt thoughts. Today I've titled it, Ghana's Leadership Experiment Gone Horribly Wrong, Unveiling the Frauds. A few days ago, Ghana 4, my heart was rent when I saw a video of a woman with a nasty gash on her left temple, the left side of her head. Her head had been clattered, all because she had engaged in some exchanges with a conductor or driver's mate over the fare. Before her, we saw that other man die over 2 Ghana cedis in transport fares, which led to fighting. But let's go back in time. On the 3rd of December 2016, this is what the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, said to us. To the taxi and trotro driver who has been hit by high cost of fuel and insurance, you have a chance to vote for change. He also said, 2 days after that, Ghana deserves better, not reckless borrowing and reckless spending of the borrowed money. Hashtag Arise for Change, vote Akufo-Addo. But just you look at the fuel price increments. Cumulative increment of fuel prices between 2017 and 2022. Fuel prices have gone up by, ladies and gentlemen, more than 280% since 2017. 280%. You see, just a few years ago, our vice president was wailing about our economy, from inflation to the exchange rate and everything in between. At the time, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia challenged the Ghana Statistical Service and the Bank of Ghana, asking them to come clean on the credibility of the country's official inflation and exchange rates. He raised these concerns in an article and said the Bank of Ghana rates couldn't possibly be true, and questioned, quote, where in Ghana today can you buy $1 at close to 3 Ghana cedis and 3 pesos, he asked. Today, We are buying it at almost 15 Ghana cedis in spite of the Bank of Ghana's official rates. You told us back then, quote, a look at the reported inflation numbers suggests that something is not right. The rate of increase of prices in 2014 by our collective experience is clearly the highest in recent times, underpinned by the 40% depreciation of the exchange so far this year, increases in petroleum, utility and transportation prices, etc. The prices of most goods and services have virtually doubled and continue to increase daily. That is what you told us in 2016. Do those words ring a bell, Dr. Vice President? Do they? Yeah, look at our fuel prices, exchange rate, and inflationary rate today. People's take-home salaries cannot take them home anymore. The cedi, cumulatively, has lost over 54% of its value since the start of this year. 54%! As I speak, businesses are folding up left, right, and center every day. And why not? Look at the inflationary rate and the lending rate. How can businesses possibly cope? The inflation rate for October hit 40.4%. Now look at the breakdown. Look at diesel, year-on-year inflation. 2021-2022, 155.6%. For petrol, almost 112%. For groundnuts, just groundnuts, 111%. Palm oil, that is red oil, 105+%. Washing soap, 104%. Now look at the oils. Sunflower, 102%. Coconut oil, 95%. Look, even women's underwear, 89.2%, and groundnut oil, 89.1%. And look at the sub-classifications. If you look at inflation year on year, now we're buying a sachet of pure water for what? 60 pesos, 50 pesos. Look at that. Water, common water we'll drink, 64.3%. Fruits and vegetables, 54+%. Oils and fats, 39+%. Live animals, meat and other parts, over 40%. Cocoa drinks, we produce cocoa in this country, 21.8%. Now look at the regional breakdown. The eastern region is still topping with over 51%. The Greater Accra region is next with 49%. Even the Savannah region. Look at the Savannah region. How? 47.6%. Western region, 33.5%. The least is the Volta region with 25.8%. Yet I've even seen people complain about that situation. Yet in the midst of all that, we have 322 Ghanaians in Egypt for COP27. Climate change is a major issue. I know. No one can lose sight of that. But to send over 320 people to Glasgow for COP26 and do same for COP27, after all the hue and cry last year, just so shows that some people couldn't care two hoots what Ghanaians think. Yes, we've been told government didn't sponsor all of them. But how many in all were sponsored with state funds? Note, Ghana, that Ghana, pay attention, has more attendees at COP27 than the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, South Korea, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Italy. These are 10 industrialized economies. Yet we have sent a bigger delegation than they did. So regardless of who's paying for whom, is this justified? But here's the stinker. Sharm el-Sheikh, where the event is being organized, is in Egypt. Guess what? Ghana's delegation is bigger than that of the host countries. Yes, just you think about that. Dear Nana Addo, it is either you are leading or you are not. You are either in charge or you are not. You are either capable or you are not. Period. There's no in between. It has been said that it is in times of national turmoil that true leaders show themselves. On that score, Mr. President, you have been absent without leave, unfortunately. We know you know very well how to carry your favorite armchair around with you wherever you go. We also know you are good at speaking in flowery English. Beyond these, can you do anything else, I ask? Can you? If there ever has been a time for you to show real leadership, it is right now. You said we were in an economic crisis the last time you spoke on the economy, after being practically forced to do so because the leader of the main opposition party had beaten you to that leadership role. I'm now skeptical about everything you say, Mr. President. You know why? You looked us in the face and told us that in your first term, Accra would be the cleanest city in Africa. That has proven to be a hoax. In fact, Accra is not even in the top 10 of the cleanest cities in Africa after 6 years of your administration being in power. You recently spoke of import substitution, but you say agrobeswa if you are nopa. You and your ministers have made countless promises about the Comenda Sugar Factory, which still remains a rust bucket of failure that continues to stain our national conscience. In the meantime, Ghana imported in 2020 alone $151 million in raw sugar, becoming the 45th largest importer of raw sugar globally. In that year, raw sugar was the 24th most imported product into Ghana, and the cycle continues. Think about it. You said just this year that your administration knew how to resuscitate our economy, to bring it back to life. That proved to be another con. Our economy is a joke, and your favorite cousin is still at post. You suggested to us that nepotism, family and friends in government would be a thing of the past if we gave you our mandate. Today, together with a horde of your family and friends, you have succeeded in bringing our country to its knees. You told us in the fight against Galamsey that you would put your very presidency on the line to see it dismantled and the pollution of our land and water resources curbed. Today, these land and water resources are more polluted than they have ever been in our nation's history. And Galamsey is stronger than ever, to the point where Galamseyers working at night even made a video mocking you and your administration. You told us you had the men. We were sold a line, unfortunately. We believed you to be credible, not realizing just what folly we were showing. You vowed to protect the public purse, Mr. President. Under your administration, the public purse cannot even be found. You criticized the borrowing of the previous administration that gave us myriad tangible and self-sustaining projects, which are still serving us today. Roads, hospitals, educational facilities, and more. But what has your profligate borrowing yielded for us, your people? Can you tell me? You told us, yet tisikaso, and so accommodating. Today, yet daso tisikaso. Yet when we complain about the economy, you shut us up, telling us, sikam pedide. Ayo, you broke down the trade fair, a highly strategic national asset. Do you remember all the expos and exhibitions there from the 90s? Yet, Mr. President, you broke it down, and today we are in a very bad place. How much could all the revenue and taxes we got from there accrue for the nation? You promised to rid our nation of corruption. Today, anyone pointed to in your administration for corrupt acts is shielded through the state machinery. Corruption now has a new lease of life. Every step of the way, you have deceived your own people. But to what end? Fix the country, Mr. President, and cease with the plenty talk. That was what you told former President Mills. It was what you said to former President Mahama. No country was ever built, Mr. President, on talk. But guess what? Talk is dirt cheap. If you have anything to offer the good people of Ghana who trusted you enough to give you a chance to fulfill your lifelong dream of becoming president, it is now. I wish you well. But as I end, I would like you to contemplate this sage African saying. It says, if you close your eyes to facts, you will learn the hard way through accidents. You know the facts, Mr. President. Now get to work before any accidents occur. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God richly bless Ghana and make her great and strong. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. We get now into our big stories, and we'll be talking about our approach towards sanitizing our environment, countering climate change. Of course, we know of that event going on in Sharm el-Sheikh, COP27, and that is in Egypt. And there are so many issues to discuss, from what Mr. President has been saying about the debt swap to the bit about what the consequences could be for places like Africa if we don't get activism right, get the right funding to mitigate the situation. Well, joining us for that conversation on our approach and what we should be looking at moving forward, we have Dr. Shalom Addo-Danso. He is a research scientist, CSIR, Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. We also have Vanan Sondo, a chartered environmentalist. Also joining us, my own colleague, Evans Mensah, JoyNews editor. He is in Egypt. And then we have Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, Executive Director, Environmental Agency, that is Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. All of them join us for this all-important conversation. Gentlemen, just to cross-check so I know everyone is on board, a very good morning to you, wherever you find yourselves. And for Evans, okay, Evans, I'll find out what the time is in Egypt currently. But for the rest of you, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you all.
Right. Let me start with you, Mr. Kokofu, as head of the EPA. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, I just had to ensure you weren't saying anything back. I'd like to find out from you. I can hear you, Mr. Kokofu. Is that Mr. Kokofu?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. So I'd like to find out, of course, we know that things have come to a head in the fight against climate change, global warming, which we're feeling the brunt of. But when you look at COP27, we had COP26 in Glasgow. Now it's COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. What is in there for Ghana, so to speak? What should be our takeaways, even as this, COP goes ahead in Egypt?
Hello. Please do me a favor. Kindly repeat the question. I'm getting a very bad.
Okay. Is it better? Can you hear me? Is it better?
Yeah, I think it's better now.
Okay. I was asking, we've had COP26 in Glasgow. Now we're looking at COP27 in Egypt. What can we look forward to as a country? What is in it for Ghana?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. Yes, it's true, Ghana is ably represented here in COP27. Precisely, we're looking at climate change and its effects globally. Right. And then also we zoom it down to our Ghanaian situation. Don't forget that over the years, Ghana has prepared its own nationally determined contributions as per the aspirations of the Paris Agreement.
Right.
And so based on that, Ghana has a lot of bilateral agreements and ongoing projects that are all geared towards mitigating and then adapting to the effects of climate change. At COP26, our president, Nana Addo Dankwa, made a very important statement to the whole world, calling for the redemption of the pledge of $100 billion annually. That is meant to help developing countries like our own, and also to be able to finance climate action that have been identified within the NDC. So we're following it up on COP27 here in Egypt, and the conversation is ongoing. As it is now, the most important thing is the trajectory where the world economy is going. It is an accepted fact that the entire globe is experiencing economic crisis, and that the only available option is to see how best countries can mitigate and adapt to climate change effects without harming their economy. So we are heading towards a climate economy world over. And Ghana, being a champion through our president, who is also an eminent member or person for climate advocacy at the UN level, we stand in the law. Given that this time around, we don't want to be following the world. We want to be part of the institution that is leading the world into a climate economy, of which we have so much at stake.
And of course, our president is head of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, which comprises about 54 or so countries. So it is crucial that he be there. But I'd like to find out from you, when staying with the president, when the president suggests that we should have some sort of debt swap. So you've promised us about 100 billion annually. That has not materialized. That is the West, the global North. And now we have a proposal for you. Basically, write off our debts in lieu of the sums of money you would have given us. First of all, is that practical, considering that the whole world is engulfed in a crisis, even our development partners?
Well, we engendered that kind of conversation last year throughout our engagement in Indonesia. We ran it through to Tanzania and Dar es Salaam some few months ago. And indeed, during the UNGA, that's the United Nations General Assembly gathering, we encountered lots of players within the financial landscape. The issue of climate financing has become so topical and very, very crucial to the extent that all avenues are being looked at. And you rightly say that Ghana is the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, of which our president holds the position. We've made our position clear. CVF is about 58 nations, comprising of about 1.5 billion people. And so we have a common voice. The common voice is so strong that we are making it so much so heard here in Sharm el-Sheikh, to the extent that the world is listening. We are talking about loss and damage. We're talking about a dedicated funding source and mechanism that will help alleviate the pains and the sufferings of vulnerable countries that may, as a matter of course, have some form of force majeure or extra disasters that are all climate related. Get back to know that in Ghana, for instance, there may be a construction of road which we contracted a loan of, say, $20 million. You construct the road, and the lifespan of the road is supposed to be about 20 years. But for some reasons, there's a heavy rainfall, there is this flooding, and the next thing you know, all these roads have been washed away. The population, the citizenry, will then come back and cry over a poor road network. Then the government will be forced or is asked to fix the road again. All that we did not get our minds to is that it is not only the road that has been washed away, and the hoping $20 million plus the interest to be paid on. So we've calculated all these, and we're saying that $585 billion annually are lost by vulnerable countries through climate-induced catastrophe. So who pays for that? And that is another thing that we are looking at. Then our president comes in and said, well, there is a suggestion, if the $100 billion annually pledge is not coming forth, can we look at a situation where debt swapping can be arranged? And for us here, we are working under the ground. We're looking at the concept of HIPIC, the highly indebted country, the basis upon which that was fashioned out. Can it be the case that instead of sourcing or going in for climate financing mechanisms, can we have a debt swap so that whatever debt the country owes can be forgiven, and then so the space, the spending space, the fiscal space can be released for such a country to go on and finance its climate action. So based on that, we are developing what we call climate prosperity plans within the entire CBF country. And these plans are very much aligned with nationally determined contributions, which are very much also within the ambience of the national development agenda or program. So we in Ghana, we've identified about 47 programs of action. 34 also are for mitigation, climate mitigation, and the rest are for adaptation purposes. And within that, we have 19 thematic areas where these actions cover. And that includes education, health, forestry, environment, the media landscape, culture, and all that you can think of. And these are very much in tune with the developmental agenda of this country, or Ghana. So basically, debt swapping for climate financing is a very important statement that the president has made. And I can assure you it has caught fire today as we speak. President Joe Biden of the United States have arrived here, and it's going to be a high-powered discussion. And I'm reliably informed that on the agenda table will feature loss and damage, and then again the debt to climate swapping, which is not a bad idea at all. And here we have also identified the sustainability of indebtedness of nations across the country. Even those who are outside the CBS, they are being considered in this direction. So there is a lot of hope. We continue to push from here, make our voices heard, and then hope to get the world out of this blue of climate menace.
And so you mentioned the number of you there and all that. We've heard that figure of 322. And look, I was at the Africa Adaptation Summit in the Netherlands. I did not see those numbers. I mean, I looked at the president's entourage. I saw the communications director there, Eugene Ahin, among others. I didn't see such numbers. In COP26, we sent over 320 people. There was a lot of hue and cry about that. In COP27, we're sending another 322 and counting. Yes, we've been told that some of them went there through other sources of funding. But some have contested. Just stay with me for this. We are sending a contingent larger than the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, South Korea, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Denmark, Italy, even Egypt itself, where the event is being held. What do you make of it?
Well, that is an unfortunate thinking. What's the truth is students, other people elsewhere who are Ghanaian origin, who may want to participate at the COP, say a student in a university in the United States of America, there's a company or a group of people everywhere in the world who want to participate in COP. You necessarily have to register on the Ghanaian passport. So we as Environmental Protection Agency will register you or the person as a Ghanaian delegate. The person may come from wherever. That is the situation. Internally, we have organizations, we have so many CSOs who are inclined in these environmental ventures, particularly they are associated with climate situations or climate issues. These will come along, Arota, a host of them, you name them. They will want to present their people there, the delegation there. Then you have private entities like Zoom Lion, including you, the media, and all sorts. I can give you two major, very important examples. There are two journalists here I've come across, one coming from Telegraphy, another coming from BBC. These two journalists, young man and a lady, they were taken around the world to Denmark by the Danish government, and the Danish government brought them to Egypt. But the Danish government wouldn't register them on the Danish platform. They necessarily have to be registered on the Ghanaian passport. So a lot of things go in. And you're talking about the numbers. That don't forget that there are a lot of institutions and projects going on in developing countries, including Ghana, than most of the developed countries that we talked about. They are here. They want to come to Ghana. They want to help with one project or the other. So once the project starts with us, they will want to have representation at the cost, at their own cost, not at the cost of the government of Ghana. So the sheer numbers shouldn't put fears in people. It shouldn't send any stock signal. The government of Ghana, as per our working, have only about, say, 41 negotiators. We call them negotiators. And this year at EPA, we sent 1/3 of that number to Egypt here. And even then, within that 1/3, we have lots of organizations, AU, UNDP, sponsoring most of them. So the cost on Ghana government debt is nowhere near what people are.
Dr. Kokofu, can you hear me?
Again.
Can you hear me, Dr. Kokofu? I have an intermediary question. I just need to sneak this in.
The 322 number that is being banded around was an intent of people wanting to be registered back home. When we arrive here, the real numbers, the real figures are those who have registered and have the badge, the participation badge. And the number, I've asked for the number. It is not getting anywhere 190.
What number do you have?
Yeah, they told us that by the close of this week, they would have closed.
Dr. Kokofu, you're telling me that the number is not what people are putting out there. You mentioned 41 negotiators.
Exactly.
What number do you know?
So. Because listen, there are a lot of people on that 320 who did not even get a visa to come. Others did not get funding sources. Others decided to do it online. And I can give you an example. We have Professor Chris Gordon, who is a renowned, eminent environmental scientist at the University of Ghana. He registered to come. In fact, he is a speaker, he is a moderator, and he has a lot of responsibilities here in Egypt. But he decided to do so online. His name is on the list. So please, when we come home, we will give the entire figures. You will give what really went into people coming.
Dr. Kokofu, I find that a bit curious that you are, I mean, when we're going, let's say Qatar 2022, apart from those who are going through whatever, maybe travel and tour agencies and all of that, we would know exactly how many people, contingent as a nation, we are taking there. You're telling me that we went to Egypt for COP27 and we didn't know exactly how many would be going. Of course, we would have known by the time they were complaining that Asemesi did not get a visa and so will not make it. You're saying as of now, we don't know the exact figure.
No. Maybe you did not get me right. Let's take tickets being sold, pre-sold for a football match. The ticket could be 100 people have bought a ticket. But by the time you get in the stadium, about 80 people may turn up after all. What I'm saying is, once we open the portal for UNFCCC registration for a corps, you get lots of people coming on board for registration registration, externally and then internally. So you definitely come up with a number. The number that you come up with, by the time the real conference gets on board, you have got to come here, register as a participant, and be given the accreditation card. That is where and when you can pinpoint that the 300 people who showed interest at the beginning is an interest, it's an intent.
Okay.
The intent may not be realized. One, you may not get a visa. Two, sponsorship may be a difficulty. Three, the person may decide after all to even do it online or may not even travel at all. So until you get in here and you go through the registration process and you get your accreditation card, you are not deemed to be a delegate.
Dr. Kokofu, we'll sew it up here.
Yes,
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having engaged us. And we wish you the very best in Egypt. Hopefully, when you return, we'll be able to get more detail on how many people we took to Egypt and all of that. But we're grateful. Let me now engage, before I bring in my colleague Evans Mensah, let me bring in Dr. Shalom Adudan, so research scientist with the CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. Dr. Shalom, can you hear me, just to confirm before we go on?
Yes, please, I can. I can hear you.
Okay. And maybe right before I get into the questions, I'd just like to make the point, even as we talk about the numbers. When I was in the Netherlands in September on the request of the Global Center on Adaptation, most of these bills were taken care of by the GCA, which is why we would want to probe into some of these issues about who is paying for what. What is our quotient? And I was the only journalist from Ghana there at the time. So if now we've sent so many people, we ought to know where the sources of funding are. But how crucial is this to Ghana in terms of the fight against climate change? What is happening in Egypt, COP27?
Okay, so thank you very much. And once again, good morning to you and your cherished viewers and listeners. So for the COP, it's extremely important because the COP brings together governments that have signed on to the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, and the protocol. And the issue is that it provides a platform where the world will provide solutions to climate change. So for Ghana, one of the main issues that is being discussed is aligning financial flows, and Dr. Akakpo spoke about it. And I think that is where Ghana we can leverage. So the president spoke about the debt swapping issue for climate action. And I think that is a platform where we can now engage investors, engage people who can invest in climate change and help us with our climate actions that we want to take. So Dr. Akakpo mentioned about the nationally determined contribution. And in terms of finance, it is supposed to cost us about 9.3 to almost 15 point something plus billion US dollars to be able to do that in 10 years, 2030, and it requires a lot of funding. So for me, I think that our presence is there to be able to leverage what we have, to be able to get most of the finances that we need, to be able to implement our targets and the actions that we have proposed in our NDC.
When you look at our situation in terms of our forest cover and how it has been impacted by climate change, over the last few years, we've suffered some of the worst depletion of our forest cover. When you look at that and you look at what, Galamsey, for example, has done to our water bodies and land resources, one of the 5 thematic areas that the president had to speak on was how, as a country, we're preserving our oceans, water bodies, and all of that. Where are we currently, and what should we be doing?
All right, so thank you. So when it comes to response of forests in terms of climate change, so I think that we are settled about the fact that climate is more vulnerable. We are experiencing more increased drought episodes. The temperature is increasing. But when it comes to the response that forests have, it's very complex. It depends on different forest types. So in general, our forests in West Africa, the tropical forest, is more resilient to disturbances and including climate change because in the past, these forests have responded to disturbances over the years. But having said that, what we have seen over a number of years recently is that our forests seem to be shifting in terms of the tree species composition. So we are seeing more drought-tolerant species dominating our forests, and they are shedding more leaves, and the ones that are shade-tolerant are reducing. So going forward, what we need to do is to ensure that the principles of forest landscape restoration is really applied, where you have a system where you're protecting the forest against wildfire, especially when you're going towards the transition and our savanna zones, and also implementing strategies that can help plant trees in our degraded ecosystems and also farmland. So the key thing is about how do we now scale up our forest landscape restoration activities, which includes protection of our forest ecosystems, which includes also planting our riparian degraded watersheds, and also planting our degraded forests. And I think that if we're able to do that, it will help us make our forest ecosystem more resilient to climate change in the future.
Let me come to Venan Sondo, chartered environmentalist. Mr. Sondo, when you look at our situation, some have said it is very dire because while we're producing very little, contributing very little, just about 3% when it comes to the agents that cause climate change and global warming, we are suffering the brunt of it in Africa, from Burkina Faso to Ghana to all other countries, especially those with deserts. When you look at this debt swap that Mr. President has proposed, is it feasible? Is it workable? Is it the way to go?
Well, it's not a bad idea, but something like that would generally change the global financial landscape in terms of how finance flows. But then the question is, why are we most vulnerable? And we are most vulnerable because we have literally been consistently incapable of adapting in terms of creating infrastructure that is climate resilient and can actually protect our livelihoods. But then we look at it again, why have we done it? It's just because we've not been able to appropriate development financing actually in a way that informs national development. So the key question there is, if that really happens, what are the sort of safeguards we can put in place to ensure that any of those kind of funds that are written off or actually appropriated towards climate development growth is actually used towards making sure that the money actually goes into developing in a climate resilient way. That is the key challenge. So it's a good idea, but then of course, the question is, what are the safeguards that we can actually commit to for accountability and transparency in actually managing those sort of resources?
Do you think our donor partners, our creditors, the global north, they will pander to that, suggestion? Do you think they will agree, especially noting that the entire world is in a global, crisis, so to speak?
Well, it's kind of very tricky, but then you have, if you look at it again, Scotland has already started putting in some funds, I think 2 million pounds that they actually put aside towards the loss and damage sort of fund, and other countries are doing the same. I think it's going to be difficult to actually write off those debts because some of those debts are actually really sort of complicated and are kind of aligned towards other sort of instruments that are going to be difficult to make them actually climate finance instruments. So I feel like it is going to be a tricky one. I think it is going to be better off having a loss and damage fund in place, which seems to be more like the trend here, with the EU actually supporting it as well. Scotland actually supports it as well, with the US actually for the first time saying they would actually support any sort of initiative towards compensating for loss and damage, but not actually creating a fund, which is sort of a very technical sort of way of putting it.
All right. I'll come back to you shortly with another question, but let me also bring in Evans Mensah, my colleague, JoyNews editor. Evans, hello. Hello, Evans, if you can hear me. Please unmute,
yes, I
Evans.
Can hear you.
Great.
Hear you. Can you hear me?
How is Egypt, the weather and everything? How's it shaping up, the Egyptian experience?
Well, it's okay. I mean, the COP27 is a very hectic conference when it comes to the activities. You have several agencies and ministries from Ghana represented, and you have to sort of keep track and understand what everybody's doing, so you can have a fair idea when you're reporting, which is what I've been engaged in. I mean, early this morning, I have some appointments and interviews to be done. I'm intending to record a whole PM Express today. From the conference grounds, just so you're in the thick of the action, get 1 hour conversation with the various parties on this, and just on the back of the conversations we have, is what really has dominated this. And I want to get a sense of how, in reality, the negotiations are happening. It's been happening for the last few days. I want to get a sense of how these negotiations are going, at least in developing world. The developed world has agreed to sit and talk, and so I'm going to get some of the negotiators just to get a sense of how it's going around either the loss and damage fund or the debt swap conversation that has been happening.
Right, and I know it's interesting because this time COP26 President Alok Sharma, himself an Egyptian, is also crucial to this entire event we're having. But tell me, what have some of the developed countries, because the buck stops with them when it comes to funding, what have they been sharing in terms of providing the funding needed to stem the tide of climate change in developing countries?
No, I mean, so you get a sense from here, talking to all the sites, and what I've found is that there's but three various positions at the table here. There is the developed world, and then there is the developing world, where Africa is. But even the developed world, I find that the United States seem to be a bit out of the rest, and they seem to be standing in a place that seem to be in contrast, slight contrast with Europe. And I want to quote you something that Macron said, which was very interesting. I read a lot into what he said, and it was seen by many here as a jab at the United States. So Macron took to the stage and said that Europe was already helping poorer countries and that other Western nations needed to do more. Quote, Europeans are paying. That's those expressions he used. And went on to say, we are, I'm quoting again, we are the only ones paying. This is a direct quote from Macron, right? And then he goes on to say, pressure must be put on rich non-European countries. You have to pay your fair share. That is Macron, and pardon the aeroplane flying above. That is Macron speaking, directly making the point that pressure, quote, pressure must be put on rich non-European countries. And everybody read into that and said, Macron is pointing a finger at the United States. And if you study what has happened, that division, that's clear division now between Europe's approach to this or Europe's answer to the developing world's call for some reparations and debt swap, and what the United States approach has been. Because you have a Biden that, of course, claims to be a champion of climate change, has brought the United States back to the table following the Trump years. And yet, if you look at his own record on helping developing countries deal with this mess that largely has been created by the developed world, it's been pretty shaky. He himself in 2021 pledged a $11.4 billion annually by 2024. And this is when everybody else at the table had made a pledge. Do you know how much he got from his own Democratic Congress-controlled, team to support this? Last year, he only secured $1 billion towards this goal. So he's falling back. And 2024 is just 2 years away, significantly. Now we know that after the midterms, it may turn out that he may even lose Congress, which means, again, Republicans will come in with even less money to this. So you can see from Macron's posture that Europe is beginning to call out the United States on this. And that has become a very, very interesting. And of course, the United States is a big brother in all this conversation. If they are not at the table, then there's an issue. So Macron goes there. And that for me is, if you talk to the African negotiators, you're beginning to sense that tension in the negotiations that are happening. And I really want to explore that a bit more.
Right. I just want to wrap with you, not entirely, but just for this belt of the conversation, just two quick questions. We also know that there's a lot of representation from the fossil fuel producers and allied entities, and that has raised, quite a storm in terms of conversation about whether they should even be represented at such an event. It's almost as though they were there to lobby, over 600 of them, from what I hear. And what has the response been from the developed world to this debt swap suggestion that Akufo-Addo, it's not new, but he reiterated it this time. So those two angles, very quickly, Evans.
So first of all, you're talking about you're talking about fossil fuel entities. I believe you're talking about oil exploration, production exploration companies who obviously are still in the business of exploring for fossil fuel and their presence on the COP. Do I understand that to be your question?
Yeah, that was the first belt of the question.
Okay, so that is a very important point you picked on, Benji, because the reason why they're here, And it's actually an opportunity. If you talk to the African countries, they like the fact that the fossil fuel countries are here. Because, I mean, as a fossil fuel countries, the oil exploration production companies involved in exploring fossil fuels generally, they like that fact. Because of the energy transition question, the energy transition phenomenon, which the ship is long sailed now, these private companies are looking to explore carbon trading arrangements where they can buy from developed countries emission savings so they can offset their own footprints. So they know that the transition is scheduled to fully materialize by 2050. However, the demand for fossil fuel, oil and gas is still going to be, the peak demand is still way away from now. So they still need to explore. But the targets in Europe and elsewhere still remain the same. So somehow they need to offset that footprint. And they find that Africa is a good place to come. And then African countries want to explore that a bit more and exploit it and get them to pay Africa. We reduce our emissions, we sell that to them, and then they pay us to offset their own footprint. And that is the conversation that is happening. And that is why I see many of them here having to negotiate. Remember, Shell has a very ambitious, zero carbon emission target by 2050. And they still know that to meet that, they can't just do it by drastic reduction of their own explorations. They have to find emission reduction elsewhere in Africa where they can offset. So that's the first point. That's why they are here. And if you talk to developing countries, they are having hard negotiations about this. Switzerland, for example, Switzerland and Ghana have struck an agreement where Switzerland is going to be paying Ghana for purchasing some of the credit that we are generating from emission reduction. And Switzerland is only able to pay because their private firms involved in fossil fuel exploration, etc., have been taxed, so they can get to pay as part of that. So that's a conversation that is happening.
Right.
And then the second point about the debt swap, On the debt swap, if you talk to our negotiators, I spoke to 3 of them.
You mean Ghanaian negotiators?
They actually believe that they stand a better chance. The Ghanaian negotiators, 3 technical people, they actually believe that they stand a better chance of getting a deal on the debt swap than the loss and damage fund approach. And they explain why. They believe that at the negotiation table, but not what they believe, it's what they've noticed at the negotiation table, that immediately they talk about loss and damage compensation. Immediately they use the word compensation. They find that the developed world negotiators get uncomfortable. They become defensive. Because when you say compensate, they around the table, it's come up and said, yes, we are guilty. Of course, they know they are guilty, but if the admission inherent in compensation that could trigger, they believe, fears of lawsuits, etc., that has become a tension at the table.
Right.
And they are finding more traction around the subject of a debt swap because Europe and others pledged 100 billion 13 years ago. They haven't honored that pledge. So they are finding it easier to tell them, you have already this pledge on the table, you haven't honored. Why don't you convert that 100 billion into debt relief?
Right.
So that we owe you money, we can't pay, so why don't you get into negotiations with even private companies and private firms and investors in your country and take on that debt in exchange for that 100 billion that you haven't honored in 13 years. And they tell me that seems to be something that they can gather around and get some deals. So that is a very interesting thing that I think we need to watch going forward.
Evans, hold for me. Let me bring in Dr. Adodanso and Mr. Sondo. This question to both of you. Now, we've been told to scale down on our emissions, though in Africa, where we have a very low carbon footprint. We contribute less than 3% to the global situation that we're facing. But the interesting dynamic that comes together is that Africa is now developing, which means that we must also, so to speak, pollute a little in our bid to industrialize. But now we're being told to look at the energy mix, to look at alternative sources in terms of fossil fuel versus others, and it creates a bit of a hypocritical situation. How do you see it? I'll start with you, Dr. Adodanso.
All right, so thank you. So before I answer that, I think that I want to still go back to the discussion on the debt swap.
Right.
Because I think it's one of the options that really Ghana we stand a better chance of getting.
Okay.
Because all the issues that we've discussed in our national determined contribution, all the climate change policy that we have, the strategies that we have, it all comes down to money. How do you have a sustainable financing option and mechanisms to be able to finance every project, whether it is related to mitigation or adaptation? And therefore, I think that pursuing this option where we get a swap, and Evans really explained the issues on the ground. And I think that it is a way that Ghana we can really pursue and get debt relief so that we can channel some of our monies instead of paying our debt. We can channel some of the money into long-term investment, which will help reduce our carbon emission footprint and also help our communities to adapt. Now, let me come to the issue about our development and also cutting emission. So what we have to be doing is how do we now develop in such a way that we have development that is climate sensitive and also towards low carbon emission society. And that is really where the world is going, that our development is in such a way that we are getting all the benefits, providing the benefits that our nation and our people need. But at the same time, we are not also increasing our carbon footprint and reducing our carbon footprint rather. So the challenge is how do we now position our economy and our development in such a way that we are not hurting our economy by not improving and also not developing, and at the same time also bringing in options and actions that can help reduce our carbon footprint. So I will look at it and still looking at the nationally determined contribution that we have. If you look at that document, we have actions that can help with development and at the same time help in cutting down and also be able to adapt to climate change. So one is that we thought about our dependence on fossil fuel. And I think that even Ghana, we have this plan where we want to look at energy efficiency. So how do we renewable energy plan, master plan, where we are looking at how do we scale up our renewable energy. So I think that for me, one of the things I think is that we should be moving towards using that energy efficiency, reducing our dependence on fossil fuel, and also investing in efficient energy production systems, and also our transportation system. Because for instance, if you look at the sectors that really contribute to carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions in the country, it is the energy sector. How can we improve on our mass transportation system so that we reduce the number of cars on our road, which we still need the cars, but we can still meet the transportation demand of our people. And the sector that is the land use sector. So we have forestry. The question is, how do we still develop and at the same time not cutting down so much of our forest and reducing our impact in terms of deforestation and investing more in landscape restoration. So there's this conundrum as to how you develop, but at the same time not also enhancing your carbon emission. And I think that if you're able to go by the targets that we have set for our nationally determined contribution, I think it's going to really help us to do that. It's a challenge, but I think it's really going to help us to achieve that.
Mr. Vernon, what is your take on it? Mr. Sondo, please unmute.
I have to zoom in again on the debt swap scenario because I literally just picked at the global developing country debt, which is over $220 trillion. And then when you compare that to what is actually expected to be paid with respect to any sort of damages and losses in climate change towards 2050, it's about $1.7 trillion. So if you are kind of going for a debt swap, we would actually still have a lot to pay back because there's going to be still a lot of debt that's left to be paid. But then that said, I think the whole narrative of the national determined contributions is a very good way for us to adopt a pathway towards transitioning to a sort of green and equitable growth, because it literally offered every country the opportunity to identify those sectors which are the most emitting and put in place projects which would actually be financed by developing countries and then actually claim the credits, as Evans was saying. So I feel it is a way for us to kind of look at, let me put it this way. I think it's a way for us kind of develop in a way which is greener, but then still developing. There's all this narrative about us kind of going away from fossil fuels, and they want us not to pollute, they want us not to grow. They have actually used their own resources, they have actually polluted a lot. Now they don't want to kind of maximize the whole extractive industry and grow as well. I don't think that's saying we shouldn't develop. I think we have the opportunity to kind of do it differently. And by doing it differently is for us to actually critically look at how we develop, how we leverage technology, how we leverage research that's available, how we leverage existing financing that is there to help us actually on that trajectory towards a greener and equitable growth. So I think it's a challenge, but then it's doable if only we are sort of focused and again, transparent and accountable, because that is where we always lack sort of monitoring and kind of explaining what we've really done with the financing. I think it's an opportunity for us to actually say, this is what we have done, this is what we have achieved, and this is where we want to go. It actually offers a pathway towards attracting more resources if we actually prove that we are leveraging the financing that is additional to grow in a way that benefits the country towards a greener and kind of equitable and inclusive trajectory.
Another two questions for both of you. I'll stay with you on this bit. So what then would you say is our president is head of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. He spoke in the Netherlands, now he's speaking in Egypt as well. What is Ghana's unique role in all of this, and how can we tap into the benefits of COP27 leading into the future? I'll start with you once more.
I'm so happy that the whole agenda of the global goal for adaptation is back on the table, because if you look at the kind of recent finance flow in climate change, actually there's a lot more going towards mitigation, because the financiers are saying, well, there is no sort of clear goal for adaptation. So I'm hoping that if that global goal for adaptation is actually set and actually really defined, as we have the kind of 5-year review period set for the mitigation sort of outcomes, it will actually offer a pathway for more financing to kind of go towards adaptation. And that's it. I feel Ghana as a country that is vocal and actually pulls a lot of weight and traction, can leverage the opportunity to make a voice, for the vulnerable 20, who are actually really, they have been saying for the past 30 years that the 2.5, the 2 degrees centigrade reduction does not help us. We need to go to 1.5. But then yet again, if you look at the global sort of submissions for COP27, it is actually going to kind of create more, about 10.6 or 10.4 more carbon dioxide emissions by 2030. But then we're supposed to kind of mitigation outcomes that reduce emissions and not increase them. So I'm hoping that in COP27, all these things, as well as people actually committing to actually more stringent, more aggressive, more ambitious targets, it would actually help us be able to kind of leverage and attract more funding if they're actually indeed ambitious with their carbon reduction targets.
For you, Dr. Adudanso, on the same set of questions.
All right, so now our president now spoke about the debt swap, and now it has engendered a lot of discussion, which is good for us and which is good for Africa, because it is happening on the soil of Africa. So I think that our role will be to be able to now leverage on the discussion that this particular comment that the president made has engendered, and so that, because it all comes down to how do you have a sustainable financing. And Sondo talked about adaptation. How do you still have that sustainable source of funding to be able to now carry out the actions that our communities, our ecosystems will adapt? So, I mean, for us and what the president also occupies, the role that he occupies in these discussions, I think that we can leverage the discussion so much based on where the president started from. Then we can take it up, and if these discussions move forward with the negotiators and at the highest level, then we can get more sustainable funding so that we can fund our adaptation and mitigation measures to improve upon our systems, to ensure that the shocks that our systems have, because our systems are very vulnerable to climate change. Most of the sectors that drive our economy is so vulnerable to climate change. So the agriculture sector, the forestry energy sector are so vulnerable. And we need to put in place those actions to be able to help improve and also make them resilient. And for me, I think that for our room, engendering this very particular discussion about debt swap is really, really important. And I think that I'm hoping that by the end of the day, when COP is done, COP27 is finished, I think that something better will come out of it in the future. That's really what I think. And I'm hopeful that something really will come out of it.
Okay, before I take your maybe 30-second parting comments, let me bring in Evans Mensah once more. Evans, I know there's a meeting of some ministers today, among other discussions that are due to be had. What discussions are on the table for today? What can we expect in Sharm el-Sheikh in COP27?
So for the, of course, the big one is the arrival of Joe Biden, and everybody's going to be
Evans, the connection is a bit bad, so we missed what you said. The big one is what?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the big one today is the arrival of Joe Biden.
Okay.
And his speech. Everybody's going to be watching that very closely. And already there are many people at the conference grounds telling you, listen, don't expect much because he is going to be mindful of the uncertain outcome of the midterms. And so he wouldn't want to make any further pledges, etc. So measure your expectations. That's a big one everybody's watching today. And as I've said, Macron has already jumped in. And so we'll see whether he responds to that. And from the developing world point of view, Ghana got a fantastic opportunity again. There is a UK-initiated project called the Forest Leaders Partnership, which was launched by the president at COP27 on Tuesday, was it, or Monday to be very specific, which is in total, at this COP27, the UK is pledging an extra $4 billion in addition to the $12 billion they pledged in COP26 in Glasgow. And interestingly, Ghana and the United States are co-chairing that partnership. And that, I believe, to answer the question, that meeting, the first ministerial meeting under that arrangement, we expect to happen in the next 24 hours, where the Land and Natural Resources Minister, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, and his counterpart in the United States will sit around the table and begin conversations around accessing the funds, which fundamentally is going to be used for, dealing with deforestation and also promoting afforestation, etc. That is a key meeting. Is a major meeting that we are all looking forward to. The first, co-chairs, the US and Ghana, sitting at the table to start proper negotiations around a huge amount indeed that have been pledged, $4 billion in COP27 and $12 billion pledged from COP26. So that's one from a developing world point of view that we are watching. 26 developing countries have signed on to that, including Brazil, by the way. And Ghana, US is co-chairing it. So it's a big deal for that.
It's a big deal. And of course, we can look forward to another big deal later tonight as you give us that special edition of PM Express. You'll be focusing on COP27, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm recording this today. It will be played tonight. I'm hoping that Monday I can get it up and running for people to appreciate what we've Ghana, from the Ghana point of view, possibly, what outcomes are we expecting at the end of COP27?
Thank you very much, Evans Mensah, and we wish you the very best in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. That's my colleague Evans Mensah, JoyNews editor, host of PM Express as well. Let me wrap with the other guests. Dr. Adodanso, moving forward in some 30, 40 seconds, what are your expectations as we weave into the rest of COP27. What are you hoping that at the end, Ghana will be able to get?
Okay, so thank you very much. And so just I want to say that, I mean, it's now obvious that we have to transition to low carbon, inclusive economy, and the pathway is the NDCs that we have developed ourselves and the updated one. For me, what we really have to look at is how do we obtain a sustainable source of financing. And I still keep coming back to the same issue, because if you are in the sector, what you see is that it is really costly if you want to implement climate change adaptation and mitigation actions. And I'm hoping that through this discussion that the president started, we'll be able to leverage that. And even also spoke about the new initiative that is being Ghana is co-chairing. And I'm hoping that really we can leverage on that and the role that we are playing in all these to be able to raise enough funds to implement the actions that we have targeted in our NDCs. The second thing is about how do we monitor these actions? Because one issue you always see about projects and programs is about how do you monitor and evaluate so that you can now adapt to the changes that are happening. And I think it's key. The last thing is about how do we provide jobs for our youth. The NDCs are really focused on providing jobs, and I'm hoping that some of these actions that we intend to implement, when we implement them, to create a sustainable job for our young people. And that is really my hope, is that after COP, we'll be able to raise a really sustainable source of funding to be able to implement our intended actions in the NDCs that updated that we have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shalom Ado-Danso, Dr. Shalom Ado-Danso, research scientist with the CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. I'll wrap finally with Mr. Sondo, a chartered environmentalist. Your parting shots, please.
I would say we have an opportunity even bigger than the Paris sort of momentum back in 2015, because there is that sort of will and willingness for those who actually feel responsible to chip in and do something. And I think for African countries especially, it's an opportunity to actually be able to receive the funds, and readiness to receive the funds is very critical. And I think the NDCs actually kind of create that enabling environment for the funds to be received in a kind of more sustainable way. Plus, I think Ghana topped it up a little bit by actually focusing on SDGs as well, creating a platform for SDG finance as well, which also unlocks other sort of avenues for finance to flow. I think all that, as well as making sure that the role of every entity, NGOs, private sector, as well as government as well, is all aligned towards the fight towards climate change. All that actually is critical towards unlocking these funds, because government alone cannot absorb all the funds. You need the private sector. You need the NGOs and the CSOs as well to be able to adapt this, and especially how this flows towards, entities that are actually out there implementing projects. I'm out here in Mankwaze today, somewhere in the central region, on our project Network, where we collect fish nets from fishermen, basically creating new livelihoods for fishermen and kind of a way of adaptation towards climate change. So all this is very critical, and for me, that opportunity is there. And the NDCs as well as the SDGs actually create that enabling environment for us to structure and receive these funds in a way that can go towards informed decisions that help us mitigate towards climate change. I'm glad it's not going to be like the CDM in terms of the Kyoto Protocol and how that played out in terms of readiness to receive the funds. We weren't ready and we missed that train. But I'm glad now, I think through the NDCs and the SDG sort of alignment forums, we have been able to kind of show readiness. And I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of receive those funds and actually really do a lot towards adopting that pathway towards a greener, inclusive, and equitable growth.
Mr. Sondo, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Those who joined us for this conversation, Venam Sondo is a chartered environmentalist. You just heard him speak. We're also joined by Dr. Shalom Ado-Danso, research scientist, CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. Then we had Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency. And of course, my own colleague, Evans Mensah, JoyNews editor, host of PM Express, who is in Egypt. When we return after the break, we'll still stay on the environmental tangent as we talk about ActionAid's climate change seminar. There's more on that after the break. And the disturbing trend continues. What am I talking about? Well, the entrance exam to the Ghana School of Law and the numbers admitted. There are rumors, there is news out there that this year, less than 20% of the number that sat the exam has actually qualified. So we're looking at a breakdown of out of 2,654 students who sat the exam, only about 534% of them, or 530 of them, that is actually equivalent to about 19.96%. Less than 20% of them making it through. Of course, we'll have to get some confirmations on the matter from the GLC, the General Legal Counsel. But this appears to be a trend year after year. Joining me for that discussion, we have Hassan Asare, President of the National Association of Law Students. Hassan, it's been a long time, my brother. How have you been?
But God is keeping us all.
Great. The last time we had a conversation, we spoke about some of the inadequacies in the system and the hope that the numbers would increase over time with the law village and all the other proposals. But it appears we're only seeing a dwindling effect. How have you reacted to this latest news out there?
Anyway, good morning to your listeners. And let me begin by congratulating my friends, mates, and all those who are being called to the bar today. The number is awesome, over 840, and I think that is fantastic. Regarding the numbers that we saw yesterday regarding, the percentage you just called, 19.96, who passed the law exam, as they call it, but I choose to call it a selection. That is quite disappointing. Whoever is doing the PR of this group is doing a very good job, because they decide to begin with the Amazana issue, then they fix this one in because the temperature is up there because of Amazana, and then they are going to call...
Mr. Asare, you would have to speak up a little. I'm struggling to hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's okay now.
It is better.
Okay. So, as I was saying, for me, this is not an exam. I chose to call it selection. Indeed, I went further to even decline to write the exam because it did not test on merit, as I had already said. It wasn't a fair system to actually look at whether or not a student was going to make it as long as the requirements were concerned, because it was an exam that you weren't going to see your script after you've written it. You couldn't request for remarking. You couldn't request for retallying. You couldn't see the marking scheme, and you must accept without question. That is the one that kills me all the more. Accept without question. And this is supposedly a law exam. And we know some of these things do not actually exist in even the law fraternity itself. You don't accept things without question. And what is actually helping some of us to keep our heads up is because that we know that laws exist to sometimes fight some of these things.
Right.
But you look at it from the point of how many people are going to be called today against or juxtaposing that with how many people have passed the exams. It brings to mind the quotation of Kwame Nkrumah. He says the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of Africa. So the increase in the call is meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of legal education. You talked about the law village. I have always said it is a gaslighting system. Nothing exists. They are not doing anything. Go to the place right now. It is all grown. So sometimes you wonder what they want. But from what I gather, it looks like they want to close down Legon because they are paying a lot when it comes to that place. and they were forced to actually take in their 499.
When you say
and they are trying to also reduce the numbers, because from the provision that I got from, the draft to Parliament, they had estimated that about 800 people were going to be taken. So if they had already taken 499, which is about 500, you had only 300. So they have to do some permutation to find a way to increase the numbers to about 500 so that it does not look like that is what they actually did. But we know very well that it's all about micromanaging the numbers, which is really a very bad thing we shouldn't encourage.
So you talk about this bit about Legon being shut down. That is, you're talking about the 499 who are undertaking their professional, leg of the course at Legon. You think that will eventually be phased out because of cost? That's what you're suggesting.
I have a lot of people in there. They have been distributed across Makola, Ipa, and Kumasi. They've been given the choice to choose only these three. So obviously that place is being phased out.
So you have, and you have evidence, to back what you're saying. You are saying on air that you have colleagues who have been spread out.
The 499 guys are my guys. And I'm telling you on authority that they've been given those three options. So Legon is out. None of them is going back to Legon.
I see.
And you've heard over the news, it's common knowledge out there, that Legon has costed them a foot. So possibly they are trying to close it, so they need to dwindle the numbers or lower it. But let's think of it this way. What will make somebody say that I'm going to write an exam and I must accept without question? They know what they are doing, and that is why they are writing some of these. That is why I chose not to write it. Because this is not an exam, this is selection.
Right. On that very point, would you say then that our structures, the General Legal Council, we have made a monster out of that council, that institution? Have we made a monster out of it? Is it high time the laws setting it up and everything else changed?
I have said time and number that we should shut, or we should, if we like, we should either phase out the whole GLC or push them to handle law issues, because their place is to adjudicate. It is not to educate. So if you don't have an educational background, some of these things are inevitable. I think they have become king gods by themselves. They do what they want. Have you ever heard any of them speak to these issues? No. Why? But Ghana is for us. So when we speak, they must listen. So for me, I think this problem is going nowhere unless we all come together as a people to fight it.
You are challenging the members on that council are deans, okay? Deans of the law faculties. You have justices, in fact, the Chief Justice and all of that. You're challenging them in terms of what the tenets of the law should be.
They know. It is written. If you read the documents that exist, in fact, the provisions for some of the airlines, it says they have the option to give that right to other faculties and even private institutions to run. So what is making them keep that monopoly? Why aren't they opening up when they are struggling? I have heard many arguments, but if the problem has to do with cutting the cut-off limit, I believe that it is within their right and they have the power to actually make those decisions when it comes to selection or whichever way they want to put their cutting point at. Because if you think maybe people should come in with a 10 and they are coming with 50, you have the right to sit with the necessary people to try and adjust some of these things. It is not the student that should suffer, because we put you there to think and to make decisions that will affect us positively, not to affect us negatively. So whatever the problem is, I feel it's within there. We voted them or we appointed them there to solve problems.
All right.
And not to escalate issues.
Hassan, do give me, from where you sit as president of the National Association of Law Students, what figures have you seen? Do they corroborate what we have?
530. I have the list I could share with you.
Okay.
Out of the lot, yes.
Out of the 2654.
That's right.
Okay, which also means that we're looking at 19.96% pass rate.
Exactly.
That's less than 20%. And it's quite an issue, because in other jurisdictions, in the UK, for example, you can practically sit in your home. You don't need to be in a brick and mortar place. You can actually sit in your home, buy your books, prepare for the exam, and if you pass, you pass. If you
I
don't,
can extend that
you don't.
conversation this way. So I live in the northern region. I am married. I have 4 wives. I am working at a private organization, let's say a good business, or I'm in a job, employed. If I want to read law, I would either have to come to Kumasi or Accra. I have to leave my wife, my children, my business, or become unemployed before I can read law. Why? In this 20th century?
Right.
But when COVID came, we were smart enough to allow people to stay at home and read these courses, and there was no problem. So sometimes you wonder what really the interest is. And what hurts me more is you have a group like the Ghana Bar Association. It is an association for the bar. Some of these people must speak up. Look, at these studios, lawyers are called. They are so intimidated that they tell the journalist, don't mention my name. Why? It's so frustrating. It's so disheartening. It's so appalling. I don't know why we have to keep doing this to ourselves. But we need to think outside the box and look at solving this problem once and for all. We cannot be coming here year in, year out, talking about the same thing.
Let me put the question back to you. What then do we do? There was a court case on the bit about even having an interview and sitting an exam and all of that. Back in the day, once you qualified from, say, Legon, you got directly in. What do we do to change the situation? And when you're done answering that, I just want you to quickly add, what are your thoughts on the AMA governor issue and all that has come up? I beg your pardon. Someone putting in some report to the law school concerning what they termed to be inappropriate behavior. And then that bit about social media handles. I know that the SRC has come out to say it is not true, but should that come into place where some monitoring is happening of what people are, future lawyers are posting on social media? I mean, what does all of that mean?
Okay, let me begin with what I think should be done. I think Parliament should fast track the provision of the private member bill that we've always been talking about, because it doesn't look like the GLC will do anything about it. So the private member bill is something that will encourage the parliamentarians to look at and work on quickly if they can. Now, the other bit is when you go to court, as per the Ghana case, a decision was reached, but it was not enforced because it's the same group of people who are there. So it doesn't look like we can do much until the private member bill is actually assented to. Going forward, we believe that whatever they need in terms of trying to solve the problem is already in an ally provided. They can allow the faculties to run it, and then they set like WAEC, set the exam, set the pass mark, and whoever passes, they call the person to the bar.
Right.
So private members, faculties are allowed to do some of these things. So these solutions are there, and it's something that we think they can explore. Now, going on to the AMA governor issue.
Just a quick issue. You know that WAEC has its own problems. Are you saying that you would prefer a WAEC that is always, that has also been bedeviled with examinations being compromised? You would prefer them administering an exam like this rather than the General Legal Counsel?
You see, I am not, I said like WAEC. So
okay, fine.
The General Legal Counsel could sit as a body like that oversees to some of these things.
Okay.
So when you talk of even WAEC, why aren't we firing people? When people leak information, we should trace it, take them out so that the system can be clean. If you keep them there and you keep complaining, then we are not going anywhere. So the problem is within their right to solve it. Now, moving on to the Ghana issue, let me begin from the information that I have, that the Director of Legal Education said that we are going to be asked to make available or to tell them what social media handles are so that they can monitor and all that. Well, from what I heard, it's a recommendation.
Right.
So let's assume that it's something that they want to do. Then I have said that Article 12 of our 1992 Constitution gives us some fundamental human rights, and that these institutions must respect and uphold. That's 12. If you move down to 17, it talks about discrimination. Now, discrimination based on gender, creed, it talks about political opinions, origin, and all those things. Now, we move to 18, it talks about privacy. And the fact that the privacy of my privacy should not be interfered with unless it is for public interest or it infringes on the rights of others. So it is situated, and it must be in accordance with law. If you move to 296, it also talks about discretion. So discretion has been defined. It need not be arbitrary, it need not be biased, and all those things in there. However, for you to actually come out with an information like that, we expect that at least it is defined. Because even with their legal professional, it talks about good character. Good is relative. It can be abused. Anybody can use it anyhow. So let me jump to the AMA, connect that to the AMA governor issue.
And you know fully well why AMA governor has been brought to the, I mean, the posts, people cite her post on YouTube and others, and they say that it is in poor taste, it goes against the grain, so to speak. I'd like you to speak to that.
I have read the student handbook and specifically the code of conduct. I have also read the provisions in the LI. I have read the Legal Profession Act document. I want somebody to tell me specifically which part or what she did, which part of it infringes on any provision. And let me begin with something. When you read the code of conduct, it talks about minimum jewelry. We should minimize the jewelry. What is minimum? Is it defined? No. To somebody who wears about 20 jewelries, if she reduces it to, let's say, 10, it is minimum. So for me, the word minimum there is subjective. If you read that same document, it says that when you are a student, you need not post or produce pornographic material, distribute it whilst you are on the premises. So it's only reasonable to say when you are off the premises, it looks okay. But let's look at her as a person. She shows flesh, she's wearing bikini. What if she's going to the beach and decides to wear bikini? Hello?
Yes, I'm listening, Hassan.
Well, if she's wearing bikini, possibly going to the beach, and she's standing in her room and decides to take a picture or video to show off a beautiful bikini or body, or she's selling it, let's even say it is the case. How does it violate anybody's provision? She's talking about sex. Don't we do sex education every day? Why is that a problem to anybody? I'm asking myself. So you can't be a professional porn star and read law? So for me,
you're asking whether you can't be,
and it's unjustified.
Hold on, that's interesting. The dynamic you bring in. You're asking whether you can't be a professional porn star and still be a lawyer. That's what you're asking.
Yes.
Interesting thought. So for you, this is totally wrong. And moving forward, what basically should we do? Moving away from that issue and also focusing on the law school admissions and all of that. In 30 seconds, what do we do?
I think what we should push for is a private member bill, because as soon as Parliament is able to pass that, it will settle some of these issues, in my opinion. Going forward, I don't think we should give the GLC that much power to be doing what they want. Because if you look at even the provisions of, the requirements that came for us to look at, to register for the exam, it is so appalling. It is shameful, it is distasteful, and I don't know why we encourage some of it. So I feel we need to take a step through any means, either the DSOs, through the Parliament, or anybody, because it doesn't look like even the executive is interested in resolving this problem.
Thank you, Hassan Asari, for joining the conversation. Hassan Asari is president of the National Association of Law Students. Interestingly, I hear Kim Kardashian wanted to take up law. If she attempted it in the US, that would be a different story. But here, who knows? Coming up, we'll be telling you about portions of the Kasua stretch, which got flooded last night. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba is standing by. Portions of the Malam Kasua stretch that got flooded yesterday. Maxwell Agbagba is live with us, and we connect with him. Maxwell, tell me, what is the situation where you find yourself currently? What have the people been sharing with you?
Frustration and a lot of people angry with the district assembly, the municipal assembly, and they are complaining that this has been a perennial problem, and you're wondering why we cannot get a permanent, fix to this problem. Anytime it rains, a portion of this road is rendered impassable as a result of the silt that is washed down, from the Wager Hills down onto this road. Where I'm standing currently, you cannot even see, any road here. All I see here is silt. Half of the road, covered in silt. Close to a kilometer of it, covered in silt. To the extent that yesterday, in fact, this morning, this dawn, sometime around 1 a.m., there was heavy vehicular traffic, on this stretch, stretching as long as 4 kilometers. And this dawn, a lot of people were frustrated. Many of them, many of the commuters who used this stretch had to walk. Some of them had to park their vehicles at field stations and then continue the rest of the journey on foot. In fact, around 1 a.m., we saw personnel of the National Disaster Management Organization who were trying to direct traffic, helping people to get home. You can see a lot of the people here are frustrated, and this morning it doesn't look like the situation is any better. Those who are using this road, the eastern bound stretch heading to Accra and its environs, have to endure this gridlock this morning because the road is still in a terrible shape. And I don't know if you can see from that point, some passengers right now have stepped out of their car and they are standing waiting for the car they're using to get fixed before they continue up the journey. It is not just commuters on this stretch who are taking a direct hit of the perennial flooding of this stretch and the perennial covering of this stretch, in silt. You can see, look at that. Look at what is happening there. These are people who are going to work. That vehicle just got stuck, in the silt that has covered, a chunk of this road. Close to a kilometer of this road is covered in silt. Right now, they've been able to move that vehicle, and now the passengers who got down for the car to be pushed are now getting back into the vehicle so that they continue the journey. Look at that. Scores of them. Others, I can see scores of other people also coming, from the other end. Let's see if we can speak to any of them. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Edward.
Edward, tell me, how bad is the situation? How long have you been in traffic?
For about 2 hours.
2 hours?
From Kasua to this side. Even I'm not even go. I haven't get to La Paz even. Yeah. This is so a mess. This is serious something.
Wait, you are in that vehicle?
Yeah, this vehicle.
What happened to it?
Just the traffic.
Yeah.
We've been in the traffic more than an hour this, and it's going to 2 hours.
What do you want city authorities to do about the situation?
Oh, the government to do something about this. This is totally a mess.
Okay. Totally a mess.
Yes.
Thank you, Edward, for talking to me. So it's frustration for business owners here. It is frustration for commuters. Everybody is frustrated. Even the Ghana Police Service, personnel of the Motor Transport and Traffic Department are frustrated about the situation. Hi, sir. What's your name?
My name is Alhaji Mullah No Sharutu.
Okay. How long have you been in traffic?
More than 3 hours.
More than 3 hours.
Very, very sad. Very, very sad. Supposed to try to do something here. Every time the rainfall, problem. The government also, officially, they are passing here, they are saying everything. So you should try to do something about this. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so, like I mentioned, everyone is frustrated. Even personnel of the Motor Transport and Traffic Department who I've been speaking to are also frustrated about the situation, and they want a permanent, fix to it. See, so look at the silt. All of these right in the middle of a busy highway. I'm talking about the Accra Cape Coast Highway. We all know how busy, this stretch is. This is the Accra-bound section. And then what happens usually is that for vehicles that are unable to use this stretch, they are forced to use the western bound lane. And that is what we saw happen yesterday when a lot of vehicles simply couldn't move, in this silt, in this mud. So they were compelled to use the western bound stretch, and that created a massive gridlock. Some persons I spoke to called it an unprecedented, gridlock on this stretch, with people getting home as late as 2 a.m. As late as 1:35 a.m. I was on this road and I saw huge traffic, massive gridlock stretching more than 4 kilometers. Benjamin, as you can see, another car over there is also stuck in that mud, and the driver together with the conductor are actually trying to get it out of the mud. Passengers now out of the car waiting for the conductor and then the maids to fix this before they continue the journey. That has been the experience of many people here. You can see the frustration is unending. If you're sitting in a car like this, the sun is already out, it's already hot. You find people peering their heads through the windows of the cars. Look at that. All of these people are going to work and they want to get to the office very early. But now they've been forced to. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Evans.
Evans, tell me, how long have you been in traffic?
The minimum is here, but I say road na say into na manabasano.
Okay. Again, I say opinion for authorities on more fast side way. I say the biens you better be na higher. Pacha.
Painful na say omuye bibi found. I say never could any crowd. Because even a car basha say, you could be a car basha say, who said it's a cry. Before there's some much maybe be found, I said,
okay. Well, he's calling for government intervention. He says city authorities have to do something about the situation. Well, these we have some persons who want to speak to us. Let's quickly run to them. Hi, you're from
Pacha from Nanamu Akwen Vincent.
Which traffic moves how many hours?
Pacha, me jump fiti Kasua to Kobe 4 hours in.
Yes. 4 hours.
Yes.
Are they?
And so to I basa so to na yira fa so no man nyina kwan nyina yiri. Ti aka che sika won pedi sika mpede de se won pa na choma ye kwan na maye.
One yes company.
Sika pedi ya man pani.
Oh, your man pennies. Yeah. Oh, okay. Matiwa. Okay, thank you. Well, so you had that conductor there in that vehicle telling us that they have been in traffic for the past 4 hours. It says they've been in traffic for the past 4 hours and they want city authorities to do something.